Under threatening skies this afternoon in St. Louis, we are still expecting a big crowd on hand as the St. Louis Cardinals go for a 3-game sweep of the New York Mets. Well, about 5 days ago, it was the Cardinals that seemed to be reeling a little bit, and the Mets were actually playing some pretty good baseball, but oh my, how things have changed in the last few days. Nothing going right for the Mets right now, and the Cardinals suddenly are closing in on the Cubs for top spot in the NL Central. Hi, everybody. I'm Dan Schulman, and this is Jeff Brantley. And the Mets had won 5 out of 7 until they met up with the Diamondbacks for a doubleheader on Sunday, and ever since then, they have looked awful in just about every facet of the game. What is wrong with this team right now?
Well, you would think that a Major League ball club could catch the ball and hit the ball, but that's the two basic fundamentals that they are lacking right now. They've been pitching pretty well, but catching the baseball and hitting the baseball has somehow evaded them, and that's a big problem.
And as you can see, the last 4 games, 2 against Arizona, then the first 2 games of this series, it's been ugly. They've been outscored 13-3 and 13-4 in this series. They've been charged with 10 errors, and really it could have been even more than that. Now, the Cardinals, as mentioned, they had lost 5 in a row going into last Friday, and Albert Pujols had been relegated to pinch hitting duty because of that elbow problem. But Tony La Russa rolled the dice a little bit. He said, you know what? We're not winning right now. We got to get his bat back in the lineup, and it's really paid off.
Well, it has paid off, and Albert Pujols is instant offense. You throw him the ball out over the plate, he is absolutely going to kill it. You've got to pitch this guy inside. You've got to make him retreat his hands. You continue to throw him breaking balls or fastballs out over the plate, he's going to hit them a long way.
A couple of home runs and 5 RBIs last night for Albert Pujols, who will be in the lineup again at first base today with Tino Martinez serving the 3rd and final game of that suspension. Can the Mets avoid the sweep? Can they play some kind of better baseball here this afternoon as they take on the Cardinals again? Mo Vaughn launched a monster home run for the Mets last night into the upper deck, but it was long after the outcome had been decided. Can the Mets pick it up, or will Scott Rowland and the Cardinals keep on rolling right on over the Mets here again this afternoon? Let's bring in the 3rd member of our team, Gary Miller.
Normally, this is a sea of red before a Cardinal game, but the combination of it being an afternoon game, so school's not out yet, and the weather has cut down. But this is the meeting place by Musial statue. As Ford Frick proclaims on the side, here stands the perfect knight, the perfect warrior. Now, if you look at his statue, if his chest was that big, Stan the Man might have hit 900 home runs. But there's also a statue of him at gate 6. That's convenient enough. That's his retired number. But framing this entrance to Busch Stadium are 9 championship banners, so it makes the perfect entrance for Busch Stadium, and this is the place to meet and greet as you head on into the ballpark. Dan?
Oh, Gary, thank you. Every ball game here in St. Louis, Jeff, has the feeling kind of a weekend football game. It's a happening. It's a gathering. It's a big event. And, of course, there's so much history in this town as well. Gary mentioned the 9 World Championship banners. And look at all these great players who are members of the Cardinal Hall of Fame and the Baseball Hall of Fame as well. Tremendous tradition here in St. Louis.
There is a tremendous tradition, and it's not just from a fan's perspective. It's from a player's perspective. I can remember the one year that I played for the St. Louis Cardinals, being in spring training with Bob Gibson, Lou Brock, Stan Musial, Red Shane Dees. When these guys are in the ballpark, I don't care how many years you've played in the big leagues, there's always something to learn. And when you've got guys that have that kind of history behind them, being able to come in and talk to you about how they used to do it, that's pretty good.
Well, one of the guys writing his own chapter right now in the Cardinal history book is shortstop Edgar Renteria. Gets overshadowed a little bit by those great American League shortstops, but right now, is this guy the best shortstop in the National League?
Well, I think that he is, and the reason I say that is not from offensive numbers. It's what he does with his glove, and this guy makes plays in the hole where some shortstops can't actually get to the ball. He saves this pitching staff a lot of runs by the way he plays the game, and we see a lot of times where he's making plays up the middle, but the play that he makes as good as anybody is the play when he goes into the hole. You make this play like this where he's going up the middle. What a tremendous glove.
And what a tremendous defensive team the Cardinals have. Renteria just one of 5 players in the lineup today for the Cardinals to have won a Gold Glove at some point in their careers, including the catcher, Mike Matheny. And Mike Matheny is going to take us on the inside pitch. He'll tell us why he is among the best at keeping the ball in front of him. And then Cardinal and Baseball Hall of Famer Red Shane Dees will join us in the 5th inning. First pitch is coming up from Busch Stadium. Here in St. Louis, 3rd and final game of the series between the Mets and Cardinals. Cardinals easily winning the first 2 games. So the Mets, we told you, they're having trouble catching the ball, and Jeff talked about them having trouble hitting the ball as well. Last in the National League in batting average and runs scored, although some of the names suggest they should do better than they've done. Burnett's on the DL. Alomar out of the starting lineup today, so some different faces in there for New York. Facing St. Louis right-hander Brett Tomko, who is coming off 2 consecutive very impressive starts.
I think the biggest thing for Brett Tomko, I was talking with him about this yesterday, is just relaxing, being able to throw his breaking ball for a strike, and that makes him feel much better about his fastball. When he's able to throw his breaking ball and changeup over the plate, especially when he's behind in the count, I think it lets him relax. He lets the ball fly, and you'll see a different velocity than what you normally see from Tomko. The kid's got a great arm. It's just a matter of getting it over the plate.
Also got a great defense behind him. Look at that gold everywhere on the field. 5 different Cardinals have won Gold Gloves, and you look at them, they all deserve them. These are not reputation Gold Gloves.
Well, all of those guys play the game the way it's supposed to be played, hard and furious.
Roger Cedeno will get it started for the Mets this afternoon. The former center fielder, former left fielder, currently right fielder for the New York Mets, sitting just 205, and his job, get on base and use that speed, and he'll get it started in a positive fashion for the Mets here this afternoon.
Well, that's the one thing that the Mets have got to have, is some kind of production at the top of the order to get guys on base for Piazza and Vaughn and Cliff Floyd. Those guys do better. They're used to hitting with runners in scoring position. That's where they make their money. If you've got a guy out there at second base, they're going to give you the production that you need.
Art Howe, who has maintained his usual positive outlook even in the face of a very rough start for the Mets, who have lost 4 in a row and are 11-16 on the season, with Floyd making his way to the on-deck circle as Timo Perez stands in for the Mets. He is now in center field when Jeremy Burnett's had a bone in his hand broken. Cedeno moved to right, and Timo Perez and Tsuyoshi Shinjo now, it looks like, going to platoon in center field. And I know you think Perez can really help this team.
Well, I think he can, because he brings energy to the ball club. But Art Howe has got to make something happen with this offense, whether it's stealing bases or hitting and running, something, put the game in motion to give some life to this offense.
And that's what Tomko is worried about right now. He has struggled in first innings more than any other inning, although he's done better again in his last 2 starts, his best 2 starts of the season against Arizona and Florida, when he's gone a total of 17 innings and given up only 3 runs. Timo gets the bunt down. Tomko plays it flawlessly on to first, but Perez with the bunt to move Cedeno up to second.
That right there is part of what I was talking about earlier with Art Howe. He's got to do some little things. Even though this ball club may be a bashing ball club, sometimes when your team's in a funk, you've got to be able to put the ball on the ground, move some runners over, do the small things in the game that gives your offense some rejuvenation.
Of course, Art Howe comes from a team in Oakland which was known for hitting the ball out of the ballpark and didn't have to do that many of those small things to get some runs across.
This is a totally different philosophy, I believe, with this New York Mets club than what you had with the Oakland A's. A lot of times the A's just sat back, took pitches, especially early in the ball game, trying to make the pitcher work, get some walks, and try to hit the 3-run homer. I don't know that this New York Mets ball club is going to be able to play baseball like that, and I don't know that Art managed that way even when he was in Houston. I mean, he knows how to manage in the National League. It's just a matter of putting it into practice and having the players out there getting the job done.
With Floyd, the left fielder goes the other way, and he drives it fair down to the short corner in left field, and this is going to get Cedeno in, and Floyd rumbling into second with an RBI double as the Mets take an early lead.
You really hate that as a pitcher. You make a quality pitch and the guy just takes it the other way, especially a big guy like Floyd. You would expect him to be coming to the plate to really try to smoke the ball into right center field, and you make a quality pitch right on the outside part of the plate that's down, and he just takes it right down the third baseline.
RBI number 8 on the season for Floyd, and a 1-0 Met lead here in the top of the first. The expression will seldom change on the face of Art Howe, whether they're up a bunch of runs or down a bunch of runs. Here is Mike Piazza, who sat out last night with a bit of a sore knee. Has already been out of the starting lineup 9 times so far this season in 27 games, which is way too many, says Piazza himself. Hitting an even 300 with 3 homers.
And Dan, I don't know that they've had Mo Vaughn, Piazza, and Floyd in the lineup too many times early this year. Maybe that's part of the offensive problem.
Piazza with some very good career numbers against Tomko, 6 for 14, including a home run. And a 2-0 ground ball, backs up, rolling a half step at third, and Piazza retired for the second out.
If you're going to get Mike Piazza out, you've got to be able to sink the ball to him on the inside part of the plate, which is what Tomko did right there. Down and in traditionally to especially to a left-handed power hitter is dangerous, but to Piazza, you've got to be able to sink the ball inside, and you've got to have enough confidence to know that you can do that if you're going to get him out. You keep the ball on the outside part of the plate. I don't care if you got the greatest breaking ball in the world. You keep throwing him away, he's going to hurt you.
And you could see Piazza there as he made his way back to the dugout, trying to avoid taking out his obvious frustration on that batting helmet. It's been that kind of a week for the New York Mets. Here's Mo Vaughn. Vaughn, as we mentioned off the top of the show, hit a huge home run, huge in terms of distance, hit it into the upper deck in right field last night, but by that point the Mets were already way out of it. It was late in the game, and the Cardinals won 13-4 after winning 13-3 2 nights ago. Just off the outside corner, 2-0. Not many guys can reach the upper deck here in this ballpark.
Look like a fastball middle in. That's what you're supposed to do with that pitch right there.
But again, because of the score at the time, it kind of takes a lot of the luster off it. And Vaughn has become, I think, one of the Mets who's hearing it the most from the fans early in the season for a lack of production. I think Cedeno hears it, and as everybody knows, Armando Benitez has heard it. But boy, whether you're talking about, it's Mo's numbers, whether it's his contract numbers, his production, or his weight, they're always talking about some of Mo's numbers at Shea Stadium.
Well, there was a lot expected when Mo Vaughn came to the New York Mets as far as his production and filling in a spot at first base. And Mo is never going to be the greatest defensive player at first base, and he's always been able to overshadow that by his offense. But when your offense starts to go south like his has, that defense and your weight and everything else becomes the subject of tabloid fodder and everything else.
Especially in New York. He's already committed 5 errors this year, including a particularly ugly one on a throw from Tom Glavine in that doubleheader against Arizona on Sunday. The Mets committed 8 errors in those 2 games, losing both to the Diamondbacks, and then have lost 2 more ugly games to the Cardinals here this week. But they've got an early lead here, and they've got 2 on with 2 out for young third baseman Ty Wigginton, hitting .267 as he takes a breaking ball outside, ball 1.
You said young third baseman there. You probably wouldn't use that young term too much for the New York Mets, but this guy can swing the bat. He likes the fastball. He likes it out over the plate, and he likes to swing early in the count.
Pops it into right field. Coming in now is Marrero is there to make the play and end the inning. The Mets do get a run. Cardinals are coming up. We'll see Albert Pujols batting in the bottom of the first for St. Louis. She's the pessimistic one because she came dressed for the elements, and he says, don't worry about it, honey. But it was raining earlier before the game. No BP today, but it's holding off right now, so we're confident we're going to get this one in. Cardinals hoping so, the way that they're playing right now. The highest batting average in the National League, a team batting average of .295. This team could really swing the bats, and Jim Edmonds with another terrific April. Every single year he seems to have a huge month, and right now he's leading the National League in hitting with a .387 average. On the mound for the Mets today, veteran right-hander Steve Traxel, as he starts off Fernando Vina with a curveball for a strike. Traxel with 4 consecutive no decisions. But he will do what he does. He will work slowly, and he will keep his team in the game. He's thrown either 5 or 6 innings, one of those 2 in each one of his 5 starts so far this season.
The one thing about Traxel that you can pretty much guarantee is he will throw any pitch anytime to any batter in any count.
Check swing by Vina, 2-1. Last year 11-11 with a .337 ERA. In his career he's actually 19 games below 500. Piazza back in the starting lineup, catching Traxel today. A 2-1 count on Vina, who hit a home run in last night's game, and did it the day that he shaved off his trademark goatee, trying to change his luck a little bit, and he hit a home run, although it looks like he got lazy here with a day game after a night game. Couldn't stay quite clean shaven here this afternoon.
So you believe in luck?
Oh, don't you? I know you have some. I've learned enough about you as a you got enough quirks as a broadcaster. I'm sure you had a few as a player. A fly ball in the left field. Floyd going back and will reach up in the corner on the track and to make the catch for the first out. Well, at the risk of alienating Met fans, let's check out the defensive alignment for the New York team here this afternoon. They've committed 30 errors in the season, tied for the second most in the National League.
Well, you'd like to believe that a major league ball club would know how to catch and throw the baseball, but the Mets have had some difficulty in that. And I think probably the biggest thing that goes along with that is concentration. When you're out there on the field, it doesn't matter if you're winning or losing. You've got to concentrate in the ball game, and that's how you play good defense.
Orlando Palmeiro, the batter for the Cardinals. No swing on the appeal. Palmeiro playing left field today. Eli Marrero's in right, and J.D. Drew still getting back toward 100% after the knee surgery. He's not yet really playing 2 games in a row, but what an option off the bench this guy is. And Tony La Russa loves a good bench as much as any manager in baseball, but Palmeiro for so many years, such a good 4th outfielder, pinch hitter, defensive replacement for the California and then Anaheim Angels. I mean, this is a good, solid baseball player.
The Cardinal bench is probably the best in baseball, and I think that when you can rotate the lineup the way that Tony does, you don't lose too much when you're changing your outfielders or your infielders, and part of that is a credit to Tony to be able to get these guys enough ABs to keep them sharp, so when they do play, they're ready to go.
Upstairs, 3-1. Think of a guy like Miguel Cairo, who outside of St. Louis, maybe a lot of people don't even know who he is. Well, he's the guy who filled in the playoffs last year when Scott Rowland got hurt and went 9 for 17 in the postseason. He won them a couple of ball games.
And there are a lot of managers that will run their everyday players out there 9 innings every single day, and maybe a couple of times a month you might get a pinch hit in the bottom of the 9th against Trevor Hoffman or Rob Nin. A lot of good that does.
A 3-2 pop-up off the bat of Palmeiro. McEwing and Sanchez are there. It'll be Joe McEwing getting the start at second base today, making the play for the second out. So now the big guy, Albert Pujols, who is playing through the elbow injury, and as you can see is up there in a number of categories. He's up there along with his teammate Jim Edmonds and on base percentage. He's second to Edmonds in batting average at .382, and he crushed a couple of homers last night, and he's being allowed to play in the lineup despite the elbow injury that is healing, Tony La Russa says. And Pujols getting another start at first base today, with Tino Martinez serving the final game of that suspension. Defensively, La Russa says the only thing Pujols is not allowed to do as a first baseman today is try to start a double play. If there's a runner at first and somebody hits a ground ball to him, he's under orders just to step on first base and take that one out.
When you talk about healing a ligament in your elbow, I don't know that the ligament is healing as much as it is they're not putting as much stress on it by putting him in left field. If you're swinging the bat and you're moving your arm, you're still putting a small amount of stress on that elbow. And I think part of what they're trying to do right now is put the least amount of stress on him from a throwing perspective, especially with Tino out of the lineup.
A high fly ball to left field. Floyd appears to have room just in front of the track, and he's there, and the Cardinals go 3 up and 3 down, 1-0 Mets through an inning here in St. Louis. Back here for the top of the second in St. Louis, the visiting Mets trying to avoid the sweep, leading 1-0. We got some young kids, and we got a whole lot of school-age kids here taking the afternoon off and getting a little baseball education here at Busch Stadium.
That's an excused absence. Yeah, I'm going to the Cardinals game.
You know what? You know what? In this town, teachers would probably say, "All right, they're playing well.
Just take your homework."
Yeah. Ray Sanchez, the New York shortstop, leads off the second against Brett Tomko. Had a cortisone shot in his right elbow on Sunday. Didn't play in last night's game. And as you can see, he's not hitting much at all.
Those don't feel good.
There's a one hopper out of his counterpart. Renteria, high throw, but Pujols is there for the play.
So what happens if Pujols has to make a play like that and hurts his elbow?
It's a risk. You know, and Tony La Russa knows it. He has talked about how much of a risk he's taking by putting Pujols in the lineup. But one thing, here's what he said a couple of times to me before the game. He said, I wouldn't do this with just any player, but he thinks Pujols, despite the fact he's only 23 years of age, is as intelligent and mature and poised as any player he's ever managed. And he thinks that Pujols will keep himself out of harm's way, that he's not going to make any bad decisions out on the field.
Well, you would hope so, but that's very difficult for any athlete to step on the field at game time and only put it in second gear.
Right. There's a former Cardinal, Joe McEwing, one of baseball's ultimate utility guys, getting a start at second base today for Roberto Alomar.
Love to watch Joe McEwing play the game in the lineup, always moving. He just seems to bring some type of energy to your ball club. Played in the minor leagues a long time, and just one of the good stories in the game.
Now, whether it's McEwing or Timo Perez or Ty Wigington or maybe at some point Jose Reyes, the shortstop that everybody's so excited about, comes up. The Mets, they need some energy. They need some life because they are playing like a pretty lifeless bunch right now, especially in the last 4 games. And again, the weird part, right before that, they had played their best baseball this season, winning 5 of 7.
Well, I think that every ball club has got to have some type of youthful energy to fuel the fire. You're playing 162 games in 182 days. You're going to have some tough stretches, and I think that the youth that you have with guys on your ball club are what give you that extra little bit of energy, especially on tough days.
Racing over toward the seats. It'll drop into the first row. Well, you saw some of the veterans there. Tom Glavine, David Cone on the DL right now. They've got Al Leiter. Of course, they'd love to get John Franco back at some point. There's no shortage of veterans on this New York Met team, and they've all got good track records. And the thinking in Metland is, if every player just does what he historically has done, this is going to be a very good team. But none of these guys are doing what, or very few of them are doing what they historically have done.
Keyword if.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of talent when you go up and down that bench, but it's just not panning out, nor did it last year. A roller for Renteria. McEwing hustling as always, but he's out by a half step, 2 down.
When you start looking at this Mets ball club on paper and you look at the lineup that they can throw out there every day, you look at the guys that they have not only in the starting rotation but in the bullpen, you would think that this ball club would be very, very competitive. But when you sign contracts, whether it's a general manager or the manager of this ball club, it all comes back to the 9 that you put out there on the field every day.
Steve Traxel, the batter, a career 164 hitter. 2 outs and nobody on for the Mets here in the top of the second. 1-0 New York, as Traxel lifts it in the air to shallow left center field. Edmonds there, and the inning is over. We'll see Edmonds leading off the bottom of the second when we come back.
ESPN's Day Game, brought to you by the Olive Garden, where great Italian food tells you when you're here, you're family.
Well, you look at the 9 World Championship banners for the St. Louis Cardinals. By their standards, it's been a long time. 21 years since they have won the World Series. 16 years since they have played in the World Series, although they have been in the National League Championship Series 2 of the last 3 years. They're in a very good era right now. This has been a very successful run for Tony La Russa and the Cardinals. The question is, can they take that final step and get back into the Fall Classic again? Jim Edmonds leads off the second against Steve Traxel and looks at his strike, and they appear, Jeff, to have all the pieces if they can stay healthy. Can Pujols play through the injury, and will it not get worse? And then something I know we'll talk about more toward the end of the game, down at the end of the bullpen, Jason Isringhausen is still out. He's had some setbacks coming back from the shoulder surgery, and boy, it's tough to be the last team standing in October if you don't have a guy to nail it down in the 9th inning.
Well, this, you know, was very well that I'm not a big fan of the bullpen by committee, and they're basically committee as good as it gets right now.
Pop up, very shallow left field, and the shortstop Sanchez is there for the first out as we bring Gary Miller back in. Gary.
Dan, you guys talked about Jason Isringhausen. I saw him outside the clubhouse today, and of course, you know, he came back a little too early, popped it out again, and so he's being very cautious this time around. Right now, he's just long tossing, but he feels like he's on schedule, and the best thing is right now the Cardinals don't need him. They're playing so well, especially in this series. You don't need much of a bullpen at all.
Well, the 10-run win and a 9-run win. Isringhausen was not quite 100% even in the playoffs last year. He was struggling with the shoulder then and eventually underwent surgery. Scott Rowland, the batter, and they've got some veteran arms down there. Steve Klein, their versatile lefty, has been a closer at times. Dustin Hermanson has been a closer at times, but they have had some pretty big meltdowns. That 20-inning game that they won against Florida on Sunday only went to extra innings because the bullpen gave up 5 runs in the bottom of the ninth.
Every bullpen pitcher likes to have some semblance of an idea of when they're going to pitch, and not every manager likes to do it that way. They want you to just show up, and when I tell you to pitch, you go out there and pitch. But when you're going to get, if you want to get the best out of your guys, they've got to have a little bit of knowledge of when they're going to pitch in the ballgame. I think that's when they're going to do their best.
2-1 the count on Scott Rowland, hitting .250 on the season, 5 homers and 20 RBIs. When you look around baseball, and there are a lot of good closers out with injuries right now. Mariano Rivera just came back, but Rob Nen is out, and Trevor Hoffman is out, of course, and a lot of teams are kind of scrambling right now in the bullpen trying to find somebody who can work that 9th inning.
It's just 3 outs.
Is that what you kept telling yourself every time you went out there?
Every time. You're only 1 pitch away, even though you just walked the bases loaded.
Of course, you had a lot of experience closing Cincinnati and San Francisco. Can St. Louis, if Isringhausen's not going to be a factor for another month or 2, can the Cardinals get by that long without him?
I think that they can, simply because they've got some guys down there that have done this in the past. But the biggest thing is they've got to get it done.
Ball carrying here today. Out on the track, Cedeno makes the catch. Rowland is retired. 2 down. Now the Stanley Cup playoffs continue with more action coming up tonight from the Eastern Conference. It's Marian Hossa and the Ottawa Senators traveling to Philadelphia to take on Jeremy Roenick and the Flyers. The Senators lead that series 2-1. Game 4 tonight, 7 Eastern. The Stanley Cup playoffs on ESPN, presented by Nextel. There is one of the subjects of our pregame conversation today, Edgar Renteria. Off to a terrific start in all aspects of the game, and coming off a very good season last year when he hit over 300. Drove in 83 runs, a career high for him, and was an outstanding clutch hitter, something he's been for several years.
See how Renteria stands at the plate closed up. That's what he likes to do right there. Hit the ball the other way.
And the Cardinals have their first base runner of the afternoon, a 2-out single here in the second for Renteria.
Renteria is a very tough 2-strike hitter. His approach to swinging the bat is look for the ball out over the plate, fight off the inside pitch, and look for the ball away from him. And you can see how closed up he is there. This pitch is actually not even a strike, but because of his approach and the way that he visions the pitch as it comes to the plate, he's looking for the ball out over, and he allows himself to be able to get the fat part of the bat to that ball there.
Well, not too many shortstops have ever driven in 100 runs. Nobody has done it for the Cardinals, and while it's early yet, Renteria is on a very good pace right now. Of course, Ozzie, obviously the wizard defensively, but it's only really in the Garcia-Parra-Rodriguez era where a number of shortstops seem to have the capability to drive in 100 runs. I mean, up until about 15 years ago, say up until 20 years ago, up until Cal Ripken became Cal Ripken, shortstop was a defensive position. You didn't even really worry about offense from the shortstop.
Your middle infielders, your catcher, and your center fielder were all about speed and skill positions, being able to do their job from a defensive perspective and not offensively. The game has changed tremendously from that standpoint.
Oops. They got Renteria napping, and Movon will apply the tag. We saw Traxel pick off a couple in his first start of the season against the Cubs. A half inning from now, we'll visit with Gold Glove Award winner Mike Matheny. The inside pitch had to block balls behind the plates. 1-0, the Mets leading the Cardinals as we near the top of the 3rd inning here in St. Louis. As mentioned, Mike Matheny, an outstanding defensive catcher. He is our guest tonight, or today, on the inside pitch, teaching us how to block balls as a catcher behind the plates.
Blocking the ball all starts with the foundation, just like hitting, just like pitching or fielding. The foundation is your setup and your stance. For me, I like to get wide, almost like an athletic position. When I teach, it's almost like a defensive basketball position or a defensive football position, and from here, sit. And in this position, I can move in any direction. What oftentimes sets apart some catchers from others is flexibility. For me, I need to be almost able to sit on the ground at this point and completely close up the hole in between the legs, and then fill with the glove. The best possible block is to have the ball hit you in the chest and then to roll no further than home plate. A big problem a lot of catchers have is they want to glove everything. The ball comes up, they want to glove, and then they leave a hole open underneath. If you keep the glove down and try to soften your body, and the way you do that is by throwing your shoulders forward. When the shoulders are thrown forward, there's then a padding, and there's almost a little bit of an airspace in between your chest and the chest protector. And what that does is causes cushion. It causes a little bit of resistance that stops the ball and keeps us going from going too far. If you can get yourself lower, it gives you a chance to get your arms wide, gives yourself to make a cup, make yourself soft, and then you got a good chance of keeping that ball from going any further than home plate.
Great information there from Mike Matheny, one of the best behind the plate. Roger Cedeno's come up and grounded out to second base on the first out of the inning after he had a base hit in the first inning and scored the only run of this game. Brett Tomko on the mound. But Mike Matheny is one of the guys, when you think about what a catcher should be, a guy who plays great defense and works with a pitching staff and places defense ahead of everything else. I mean, Mike Matheny is one of the first guys who comes to mind.
I think that a great catcher from the mental standpoint and the way that he works with a pitching staff can make a mediocre pitching staff very, very competitive.
Inside to Timo Perez, a ball and a strike, and Matheny, who had been with Milwaukee, had been with Toronto, came to St. Louis, played regularly in 2000. That's when he won his Gold Glove. Suffered an injury back then. They were heading toward the playoffs, and he was opening up a present. Remember this story? It was his birthday, I guess, and he cut his finger very badly trying to open up the box and was unable to play for part of the playoffs. But he's playing on nearly an everyday basis right now. A 2-1 fly ball into center field, and Edmonds right there. For Matheny, Jeff, this is the Cardinals' 26th game. He has started 24 of them. How long can he keep up that pace?
I don't know that you can continue to do that, even though that he'll tell you that he wants to play every single day, which is part of why he's so good. He's such a great competitor. But you start getting into July and August, and it starts getting hot in St. Louis. Those legs are going to get tired, and his offensive production is going to dwindle. Without Joe Girardi able to start ball games, the only other option that you have is bringing Eli Marrero and putting him behind the plate. And even though he came up as a catcher, Tony likes to use Marrero all over the field and likes to keep him as an option, especially late in the ball game. And that's part of the reason that you see Matheny out there every single day.
To Floyd, the batter, and a pop up on the left side of the infield for Scott Rowland, and a very quick inning for Brett Tomko. Cardinals coming back up, down 1-0. The Met fan here at Busch Stadium, trying to find something positive to cheer about. So far so good. Up 1-0 going to the bottom of the third, as the right fielder Eli Marrero steps in for the Cardinals. This is the guy Jeff was talking about. Came up as a catcher, but he can play all three outfield positions pretty well. He's got some power, he's got some speed, and he finds himself in the lineup more often than not somewhere as he skies a ball into right center field. Timo Perez is there, and Marrero's gone, one down. Now Mike Matheny. We talked about his defense last half inning. He's hitting the ball very well. He's also become known as one of the tougher guys around. This is a few years back with Milwaukee. He gets hit right in the cheek, doesn't go down, doesn't leave the game. I mean, that got a whole lot more face than it did batting helmet, didn't it?
Well, it got all face. There was no batting helmet. You got to have a little bit of toughness to put on that equipment every single day. This guy's a champ. I think that he makes the difference for Tomko, Garrett Stevenson, and Simon Tachi. I think that his ability and his game calling expertise behind the plate makes those guys into pitchers that can go out there and compete every fifth day.
Well, the two guys I think about when I think about catchers who fit the description that you just mentioned are Matheny and Brad Ausmus. Are those the two guys? Are they right at the top of the list in terms of working with their pitchers?
I think there's no doubt about it. And Girardi is a guy too.
Yeah.
A little flare into shallow right field. Cedeno with plenty of time to get there. 2 down. Matheny, of course, gets most of his attention for his defense. Mike Piazza gets most of his for his offense, but he made a good catch a couple of nights ago. Was a little bit upset about that plexiglass there up over the wall. Feeling fortunate that he didn't sustain any kind of an injury as he banged into it making that catch. There's Brett Tomko. Tomko 2 for 9 on the season, a 159 career hitter.
You'd like to believe that Tomko has finally found the secret to his success. He's had a couple of real good outings, and everybody has always talked about his arm and his ability to pitch, and this guy has a great arm. It's just a matter of finding that last level of confidence and being able to go out there every 5th day and pitch with confidence, even though you may not have your best stuff.
And Tony La Russa said before the game that once you reach a certain age, and Tomko's 30 years old now, all those things that coaches have been telling you for several years, they start making sense, and you start listening to your coaches more as you get a little bit older, and you start realizing what you can do and what you can't do.
When you first come up, especially if you're out of high school or out of junior college, and you get into the professional ranks, whenever you get in trouble, you go back to what you did when you were 10 years old. That's rear back and try to throw the ball as hard as you can. Well, that doesn't work in the big leagues. You have to be able to pitch as much with your head as you do with your arm.
Breaking ball and a beauty by Traxel to strike out Tomko and end the inning. We are through 3. Mets 1, Cardinals nothing.
I don't see I could go over. You wouldn't even know I'd be gone. It'd take me like 2 pitches. I could get a haircut. It would take you a little bit longer. I might check that out a little bit later on here today. But tomorrow night it's the NBA playoffs. It's a triple header. The Pistons and the Magic. Detroit staved off elimination with a lopsided win last night. That is 7 Eastern time on ESPN at 9:30. It's Philadelphia and New Orleans as the Hornets did the same thing against the Sixers last night. And how about that big win for Portland? They'll take on the Dallas Mavericks at 10:30 Eastern time over on ESPN2. The NBA postseason on ESPN, ESPN2, and ABC. Mike Piazza leading off the 4th inning for the Mets, who have a 1-0 lead against the Cardinals. Piazza with a ground ball to 3rd back in the 1st inning. We saw a lot of frustration on his face as he slowly made his way back toward the dugout. Keep in mind the Mets have played only 1/6 of their schedule, 27 of the 162 games, and good teams have often pulled themselves out of a deeper rut than the one the Mets are in right now and gone on to have good seasons. The Oakland A's a couple of times in recent years have done that. But the question is, are the New York Mets a good team, or are they a collection of good players who aren't playing as well as they have in the past? Can this team still get back to 500 and back into the race in the NL East?
At the pace that they're going, I don't know that it can happen. I think this club has a good pitching staff. I think they can finish out ball games, even though Benitez has struggled early. But the biggest key for this ball club is, can they play good enough defense to hold themselves together? And I don't know that they can. They didn't do it last year, and so far they haven't done it very well this year. And you would think that this ball club, when you look at the names that they have out there, that they would play some pretty good defense, but they have not done it.
Well, of course, the National League East has changed a little bit this year in that the Philadelphia Phillies appear really to be a force to be reckoned with. The Montreal Expos are off to a great start, and after a sluggish start, the Atlanta Braves are playing like the Atlanta Braves. They've won 13 of their last 15. Greg Maddux has himself turned around. A 3-2 fly ball high into left center field. Edmonds has plenty of room out there, and Piazza is retired, 1 down, and now 8 in a row sent down by Tomko. How do you size up this division?
I think that the Braves offensively, that's part of what has carried that ball club. If they continue to hit the ball the way that they are right now, they may have number 12 in their pocket, because these guys have pitchers that they're gonna pitch well. Yes, there's going to be some adjustment coming to a new ball club, but they're playing good defense and they're hitting the ball well, and I think that in itself is a telltale sign that the Braves are going to be there when it comes down to the last few days of the season.
Mo Vaughn walked in the first inning. The Phillies with Millwood and Tomei and David Bell. I mean, they changed their team as much as anybody in the offseason. They went out and threw money at people. How good are they? How much have they narrowed the gap on the Braves?
I think the Phillies definitely have a competitive shot in that division, even though the Braves are the team to beat in my mind. But when you start talking about the pitching staff for the Phillies, do they really have the experience coming into August and September that the Braves have? I don't know that they do. I'm not saying that the Phillies pitchers can't compete with the Brave pitchers, because I believe that they can. But when you start talking about pitching in a playoff atmosphere, youth sometimes falls to the wayside, and that could be their detriment.
Vaughn will draw his second walk of the afternoon as we check in with Gary Miller again. Gary?
Dan and Jeff, you talk a lot about the Mets defense, and it was brutal. One of the things that really undid Art Howe's team is that doubleheader that they had to play on Sunday. 8 errors by 8 different players. Talked about Piazza's defense behind the plate. Mo Vaughn has really deteriorated at first base. I asked if they want to have a team meeting, and when I talked to the players, they said, well, Tom Glavine said if we do that, it admits we're in a serious situation here. Art Howe had one before. They went on a 4-game winning streak, so we'll see how desperate they feel.
Ty Wigginton, the batter. I think it is time to admit it's a pretty serious situation, don't you, the way they played? And
there's some credence to what Tom Glavine is saying, because anything that goes on in New York is going to be thrown out to the public, and anytime that you have a meeting, somebody wants to know exactly why you're having a meeting.
Steve Phillips, the GM of the Mets. As you can imagine, if you're in New York, you already know this. If you're outside New York, you can imagine how the tabloids, some of the local papers in New York, are really taking some runs at Steve Phillips right now and hanging the troubles that the team is having at his doorstep, basically, because he's the guy who put together this team over the last couple of years, signing so many free agents.
And you would like to believe that when you put guys on your payroll and you bring them in, you expect them to do the same things that they've done in the past. And I don't know that some of these guys offensively, I think the pitchers have done fine, but some of these guys offensively have not put the numbers up that they've done in the past.
Pujols, and he throws to second.
Not supposed to do that.
He's not supposed to do that, according to Tony La Russa. Now, La Russa specifically said he's not supposed to try to start a 3-6-1 double play, and maybe by the time he ranged as far as he did, he felt he was as close to second base as he was to first base.
He dives for this ball and he throws it sidearm. Now, that in itself tells you that you can't regulate a competitive player.
Yeah.
If you're at second base and the ball's hit into the gap, you're going to sprint home. It's part of what you do. And same thing at first base with a ball hit like that. He's going to make the play that it's instinct. You don't have time to think about it out there.
2 down and a runner at first after that play by Pujols. Ray Sanchez is the batter. Well, Pujols has been throwing a little bit every day, and whereas almost 2 weeks ago he was having trouble even throwing the ball overhand at all.
Well, that throw right there is absolutely the worst possible throw that you can make to put stress on your elbow.
1-1 the count on Sanchez. Back to Gary.
Dan, it's interesting, and we see Tony La Russa's reaction there, but I talked to Albert before the game, and he said he can make throws up to 100 feet. Throws in the infield don't matter, that he has the okay to start a double play like that. So it's interesting to see where the difference is, but according to Albert, from his mouth, he could throw up to 100 feet.
Well, that is very interesting, Gary. So Albert told Gary one thing and Tony La Russa told me another thing. Well, we don't want to cause any friction here. We're just going by what they told us.
Well, if he can only make a throw 100 feet, what are I guess probably the big question is, what are you going to do when Tino comes back?
Tomorrow. Yep. Because Tino will be back off the suspension. The Cardinals will still be here. Pujols played the outfield in Florida over the weekend, but Tony La Russa told us it's a shallower outfield. There's a base hit into center field for Sanchez. Wigginton up to second. There's not as much space to cover, so the throws wouldn't be as long for Pujols. But this is a pretty big outfield, and they've got all kinds of plays where Edmonds goes over to help or Renteria goes out to help. But Tony La Russa was kind of non-committal about where Pujols or if Pujols will be in the lineup tomorrow night.
A couple of years ago, you could take Pujols and stick him over there at third base. let him make that throw. But in the instance that they're in right now, Scott Rowland's not going anywhere. And there's going to be there's somewhere along the line, if Pujols continues with this arm problem and it doesn't get any better, there's got to be some type of friction or something that's going to come up with the first base position, if that's the only place he can play, because you've got to have his bat in the lineup.
Well, in La Russa's mind, the perfect game is get him 2 or 3 at bats. He contributes, they get the lead, and then you get him out of there and get a defensive player in there toward the end of the game, so you don't want to put too much strain on his elbow. Rolling a fixture at third. 2 on, 2 outs, and the batter Joe McEwing.
You said, I'm sure every manager would love to have a 10 runs in the first inning and the pitcher throw a shutout. Well, sure, but that's not going to happen every day. And there's going to be times in a ball game where, just like that ground ball there by Wigington, where Pujols is put in a position where he's going to have to make a throw. That's part of the game. And if you're in left field and you've got a runner tagging up scoring, and you've got a short fly ball, he's going to cut it loose.
2-hopper out to second, bobbled by Vina. He recovers and throws out McEwing to end the inning. Couple men left on for the Mets. On to the bottom of the 4th. 1-0 New York. At starter Steve Traxel has been at the top of his game through 3 innings today. He's faced the minimum. He has given up a base hit, but then he picked off Edgar Renteria to end the 2nd. So it's the top of the order coming up for the Cardinals here in the 4th, beginning with second baseman Fernando Vina. A lazy fly ball twisting toward the foul line down the left field line and dropping in foul territory. And this is ESPN Day Game from Busch Stadium in St. Louis, Missouri. The New York Mets and the St. Louis Cardinals in the final game of a 3-game series. The first 2 each won handily by the hometown Cardinals. Stan Shulman, Jeff Brantley, and Gary Miller with you here this afternoon. We had some rain earlier today. The tarp was on. Nobody took batting practice. But just about the moment the game began, the rain stopped. And it hasn't been seen since.
That's what happens in St. Louis.
I guess so.
Baseball.
0-2 on the foul ball by Vina.
Baseball in St. Louis, the clouds cooperate.
Everybody cooperates. You'll never see, and it's one of the first things you think of every time you come to the ballpark here. There is no city in America where more of the people in the stadium wear the team colors than they do here. You'll see it even more at a night game than at a day game, I think, for some reason. I don't know. This is actually the lowest percentage of red jerseys I've ever seen. But sometimes you get here and it's as if a memo's been put out or the local newspaper's taken out an ad saying don't forget the red T-shirt.
You're exactly right. In 1998, everybody's last name was McGuire.
There's the 1-2 to Vina and a swing and a miss, and Traxel picks up his 2nd strikeout of the afternoon.
You know that Vina is struggling for hits when you see him swinging at balls that are out of the strike zone. The first ball that he swung at was a ball that was off the plate away, and this ball is up and away. When you're hitting 300, you don't swing at that pitch. When you're hitting 210, you're swinging at everything.
And Vina last year hit 270. The year before that hit over 300. They need him to get back, although maybe not. They're scoring a ton of runs as it is, but what a bonus it would be to get him back where his on-base percentage was way up where it used to be. Here's Palmeiro. He popped up his first time up.
Part of Vina's problems is the hand problem that he had and trying to get back into that groove. A lot of times when you take some time off, it takes you a little while to get back into the groove of things, especially from the hitting.
And with the Cardinals, it always seems as if they're dealing with something. Already this year, Isringhausen out, Pujols with the elbow injury. Edmonds has had a calf injury in the spring and missed a lot of time. Vina with the hand. Bouncing ball over the mound. To his right goes McEwing, and a good play, 2 down. So with 2 outs, nobody on, Pujols will come up. And just to wrap up, tie up some loose ends on that story that all of us, Gary Miller and yourself and me, were telling last inning. Albert telling Gary Miller that he's allowed to throw in the infield, and Tony La Russa telling me that he doesn't want him starting the double play. But it may be because he had dove to his right and he was already so much closer to second base, he's allowed to go get the lead runner. Tony La Russa specifically said to me, if there's a runner at first and he gets a ground ball, just step on the bag. Don't even worry about 2. So maybe they have come to some kind of an understanding, not to split hairs defensively here, but as you were saying, I'd imagine after every game, Tony La Russa is going to go over to Albert Pujols and say, I wish you wouldn't have done that. Do you think you really should have done that? But Skip let me know. We talked about it, and you know,
It's going to be an ongoing negotiation, you can imagine, between the longtime manager and the third-year star.
When you're in the outfield, that may be one thing, to get the ball to Renteria in a hurry. But when you're playing first base and you've got a runner that's running, your instinct is going to tell you get up and throw the ball to second base, and that's what he's going to do. You can talk about it in the dugout or in the locker room all you want, but this kid is going to throw the ball to second base. I don't care what they tell him. That throw right there is the most difficult throw that you can make, and he hopped up and threw the thing sidearm to second base to get the out.
The only batter in Major League history to have his first 2 years at least a .300 average, 30 homers, 100 runs scored, and 100 RBIs. Nobody had ever done that before. Ground ball wide of third and into left field, a base hit. Back to Gary Miller.
You know, it's interesting you talk about that, Jeff, and I asked Albert about that. In the heat of the moment, how can you possibly know? And he says more than any player now, he has to think ahead of the play in every scenario. So he knows what he's going to do in a given situation. He said it hasn't even been a problem. He's never tried to pull the trigger completely. He's never been caught in between.
The problem with Albert is you can't take the heart out of the lion. And this guy's a competitor. His instincts are purely baseball, and he's going to make plays like that simply because he's a winner. He's a gamer. That's why he has the statistics that he has, is because he wants to do well.
Jim Edmonds the batter with 2 outs and Pujols at first. 1-0 Mets in the bottom of the 4th. But Gary makes a great point there. Maybe thinking ahead, Pujols says to himself, the base runners move on. So if somebody hits a ground ball to me, I'm going to go for that guy. If it was Cedeno, maybe he says, I'll just take the sure out at first. Because it was Vaughn, and he had Vaughn by 30 feet.
The one luxury that he does have at first base is you can make a throw to second, as he did there, and not have to air it out. When you're throwing the ball from left field and you have to throw through the cutoff man or to the cutoff man has got to get out there. So that's going to put extra responsibility on Renteria or Roland or whoever it may be.
Edmonds with a swing and a fly ball to right field. It'll stay in the park for Cedeno, and that will be all for the Cardinals here in the 4th inning as the afternoon rolls along and the stadium fills up. We'll move to the 5th. 1-0 Mets. It's a pitcher's duel here so far. 1-0 Mets. Top of the 5th inning as the Mets try to salvage the final game of this 3-game series. That's on their way to Milwaukee. After the game tonight, the Cardinals will wait for the arrival of the Expos. Expos are up in Milwaukee this afternoon, and last score we have leading 4-0 as Traxel swings through it 0-2. A comparison to the numbers so far for the 2 pitchers. I mean, Traxel and Tomko, 2 guys that people who have studied them over the course of their career say, yeah, they're good, solid major league pitchers, but maybe they could be even better than they've been in the past. Do you buy that?
I do, and especially for Tomko, I think his upside is tremendous. He's got a great arm. He's only 30 years old, and I think he's just now starting to figure out what he has to do to be successful up here.
Traxel pops it up. It'll be Vigna now coming in on the dirt, and he is there, 1 down. Don't forget, the Stanley Cup playoffs continue with Game 4 tonight between the Ottawa Senators and the Philadelphia Flyers. Marian Hossa and the Senators taking on Jeremy Roenick and the Flyers. Game 4 at 7 Eastern tonight. The Stanley Cup playoffs on ESPN, presented by Nextel. That time of year, the NHL and NBA playoffs going wild, and all kinds of exciting finishes. Boy, that Anaheim-Dallas game last night was something else. Another 1-goal win for the Mighty Ducks. Here, a 1-run lead for the Mets as we go back to the top of the order. Roger Cedeno is the batter. He's going to at least think about bunting his way aboard, but he took a strike.
You a big hockey fan?
I was as a kid, and I'm really getting back into it again.
We just lost.
You got a minor league.
We just lost our.
Did you lose your team in Jackson?
Yeah, they shut it down.
You always talked about, what was it, the East Coast Hockey League? Or
my kids love going to the hockey game, and then for some reason or another, I don't know if it's because of they weren't making a whole lot of money or what, but they shut it down.
If only they had, say, a wealthy former ball player who lived in town who could have given the team an infusion of cash.
We just bought jerseys and they shut it down. My kids are wearing jerseys that are not even there.
Well, there is nothing better than overtime in the Stanley Cup playoffs, and we've had that so many times. I actually saw that. What was the 5 overtime game? Marty, who was the 5 overtime game? That was Anaheim, and that was in the first round, right? It was a 5 overtime game in the first round. I got home after 3 overtimes and managed to stay awake and see the end.
So is that like a 20-inning ball game?
Pretty much. Cedeno reaching for it, and he flares one into left field for Palmeiro, 2 down.
I didn't think that my children would enjoy the hockey as much as they did.
They like the speed or the physical play, or
I just think I think they liked when they were fighting.
yeah.
East Coast Hockey League, there's
That's
blood
right.
on the ice. Believe me, they're out there scrapping.
2 outs, nobody on. Timo Perez, the batter, a sacrifice and a flyout for Timo so far here today. Now a big bouncing ball out to second. Vina there. Inning over. 3 up and 3 down for Tomko. Bottom half of the inning, Cardinal and Baseball Hall of Famer Red Shandies will join us here in the broadcast booth. In addition to great baseball, some good-looking eats here at the ballpark this afternoon as we move to the bottom of the 5th. Mets 1, Cardinals nothing. Dan Shulman, Jeff Brantley, and in the middle, Cardinal and Baseball Hall of Famer Red Shandies, who has spent more than half of his life in the Cardinal organization. Red, thanks for joining us here this afternoon.
Thank you.
Scott Rowland will lead off the inning against Steve Traxel. To get it started, Red, what does St. Louis baseball mean to you? Why is it so special here?
Well, they've always had great fans. Of course, we've had announcers with us, you know, way back when, before your guy's time, Franz Locks, when he was doing it on the old ticker and everything. And we had great announcers here, and I think that's why in your smaller towns in Arkansas and all through the South, and before everybody was, you had more than 18. They followed the broadcast pretty much on radio, and I think they just stayed with the Cardinals, and they come in.
People forget St. Louis used to be as far west as Major League Baseball went, as you were talking about before the New York Giants and Brooklyn Dodgers went west. So kind of everybody south of St. Louis and everybody west of St. Louis was a Cardinal fan?
Well, I would say so. And another thing, you know, we had so many minor league clubs throughout the country, and they followed a lot of the young guys that were playing in the minor leagues when they came to the big leagues. And I think that was another big thing.
Brett, I'll tell you what, when the year that I played here, being able to come to spring training with you there and Lou Brock and Bob Gibson, that to me is what the St. Louis Cardinals, my memories are all about. Even though McGuire had that huge year, it's just to me, being able to play as long as I did and being able to have you guys that come back and still invest your time in the ball club and in the franchise. To me, that's what Cardinal baseball is all about.
Well, we still go in, and Brock and Gibson comes in. Stan didn't make it this year. It's the first time he hadn't made it. But the Cardinals have always done things such as that. The older ball players that's been around, they have them come in quite often, you know, in spring training. So I think that makes it good. And it's fun for me to be with these guys.
It's fun for us, too, believe me.
Upstairs, 3-2 on Scott Rowland. Do you find, Red, that the Cardinal players of today have learned about your generation of Cardinal players, and they're aware of all the great history that this franchise has?
I think so. You know, these guys, they'll sit around in spring training when you got an off, you know, might be raining or you're not playing that particular day, waiting for a few innings, and they'll sit around and talk, and they like to know what's going on and how it started and everything. You know, the Cardinals had over 500 minor league players at one time. When I broke in when I signed a professional contract in '42, I think we had 28 minor league clubs. So that's over 500 minor league players.
That's a lot of ball players.
So you know you would be able to pick somebody out.
You'd think.
One out here in the bottom of the 5th, 1-0 for the Mets. So, Red, you won a World Series here as a player. You won a World Series as a manager. You hit a game-winning home run in an all-star game. You've been inducted into the Baseball Hall of Fame. Is there something that stands out as the career highlight for you?
Well, I think everybody's highlight is when you go to spring training on a big league ball club, and you're looking for to get yourself in shape with the rest of them win a pennant and win a ring. And I was pretty fortunate in 1946, my second year in professional in the big leagues. We won everything against a great club, Boston Red Sox. I think that's everybody. You know, they just spring training is a big thing to get everybody in shape and then try and win a pennant.
There's Renteria going the other way. And he's 2 for 2 here this afternoon. You know, when the greatest players that the game has ever seen, read, or discussed, you know, Hank Aaron and Willie Mays and so forth, to me, one guy who gets left out of the conversation sometimes is Stan Musial. And I know he's treasured here in the Midwest, but how good was Stan Musial?
Well, all you have to do is look at Stan Musial's numbers, and it'll tell you right there how great he was. I mean, he was just an outstanding ball player. I played with him, of course, and I played with Henry Aaron. I played with Willie Mays and played against Mantle and DiMaggio and all them guys. But Stan knew when to take an extra base. He was just a good all-around ball player, plus a good hitter. And to have him on the ball club was outstanding.
Runner at first, 1 out, and the batter was Eli Marrero. 1-0 Mets here in the bottom of the 5th. You at the ballpark on a regular basis still?
I'm still getting uniform until the game starts and I get off. I'm going to make this trip, and I got to go to New York and Boston because I hadn't been in Boston when we're going to play them.
Oh, that's good. A special assistant now to General Manager Walt Jocketty. Red spent, or is continuing to spend, better than 45 years in the Cardinal organization as a player, a coach, and a manager.
That's a long time.
A lot of good memories, though, huh?
Oh, my goodness, yeah.
I just think it's a special feat for this Cardinal organization to have guys like yourself that continue to be part of the baseball tradition here and coming to the ballpark and being around the players. I just think that experience really, regardless of what everybody believes or how they think, that experience in itself makes the players what they are on the baseball field every day.
Well, you know, years ago, you know, they only had 8 teams in each league, and now you have a whole bunch of them. But, you know, their ball players today are great ball players. You know, they could have played when we played. You know, you have different things. People come up to you and say, could they have played? Could he have played? Absolutely. They're great ball players out here today on all your ball clubs. There's just a few more big league clubs. That's about it. The big thing to me is in the big leagues today, the pitchers don't have the control they had years ago. That's the big thing. They're pitching from behind too much.
And they don't pitch inside.
Well, that's more or less like a rule now.
Exactly. That's the one thing I could remember it like it was yesterday, sitting in having lunch down in Jupiter, Florida, and Bob Gibson saying, you got to have one side of the plate.
Marrero with a fly ball to deep center, but it's going to stay in the ballpark for Perez for the second out as Renteria retreats. Well, St. Louis, and this part of the city specifically not known just for baseball, right across the street is the International Bowling Hall of Fame and Museum, and we understand that you were a member of the Budweiser National Bowling Team during your playing days. And what's you second? That's you second from the right. That's Stan the Man with the plaid shirt on.
Yeah.
Who else we have in there?
Well,
that's Enos Slaughter on the far right.
No, it's some of the bowlers, I think. You know, at one time, the Cardinals, we bowled, we'd get the team together and would go different places and bowl where they passed a hat for the March of Dimes and everything. So they kept you pretty good. But I did bowl with the Budweiser team for a few years when somebody wasn't able. Ray Bluth had a broken finger one time, and Whitey Harris, who was running the thing, he was out, and all them good bowlers, and I had a good time with them.
Keep your arm in good shape.
Oh, yeah. Well, I'd bowl in the wintertime a little bit at that time, and I was able to do a pretty good job.
Could you have made a living as a bowler if baseball hadn't worked out?
Well, I don't even want to talk about that.
Does that mean no?
I don't think so.
Stan the Man second from the left, and Red Shandy second from the right among the Cardinals who are big-time bowlers.
That's red right there.
Yeah. I think that's Terry Moore. I think that's when he opened up a bowling alley. I think that was Terry Moore way on the right.
Mike Matheny, the batter. You never know where TV types are going to find this stuff. Huh?
Yeah, that's right.
Bring it out of the closet and put it on TV again.
How about Mike Matheny, Red? We were talking about him earlier. I really believe that he adds an extra dimension to this pitching staff, not from his physical skills behind the plate, but from his mental skills. I think he makes the pitching staff better with what he does behind the plate.
Well, he's got a great arm. He knows how to call the game, and he's always in the game. He's a solid ball player, and you need somebody behind the home plate like that.
0-1 the count on Matheny. 2 outs and a man at first as he takes up and away. And Gary Miller is with us as well today, Red, and he's got a question for you.
Red, it's hard to imagine these days, but remember the Sports Illustrated cover with the $1 million lineup? Could you even imagine? And that was a big deal back then when you had the Cardinals in the late 60s, and now that's barely a minimum salary.
Well, that's right. And of course, I was the manager. That was our '67 baseball team, and I think Gibson was the highest paid. I forget what he made. I think he made about $82,000, and then McCarver was next with about 75. And I had a great ball club that time. They knew how to play. They come out on the field and they hustled. They knew what they had to do, and they did it. And that's why we won. We had a good ball club.
How was it getting to manage a Bob Gibson pitching every 5th day for you?
Well, when you got somebody on the ball club like Bob Gibson, you have a losing streak. He's going to come around and stop that losing streak in a hurry for you. He was outstanding. I had a great ball player, of course, Lou Brock. He was the leadoff man, and boy, he was a good one. And he could steal bases, of course. He could hit the ball. He could do a lot of things. So all in all, and then we got Roger Maris from the Yankees, and I moved Shannon from right field to left to third base. We didn't have a third baseman, and he done an outstanding job. He's not a rolling there at third base.
There's Mike right there.
He could do a good job.
A base hit by Matheny. 2 on with 2 out as Brett Tomko, the pitcher, comes up and was called out on strikes in his first at bat. We were talking earlier about what a nice run the Cardinals have had the last few years under Tony La Russa. Consistently good in the playoffs. Is this team good enough to get into the World Series and maybe win the World Series based on what they've got this year?
Well, I think if they could keep everybody healthy, we got an outstanding job. And that's true for any ball club. There's no question about that. Our pitching, they say, wasn't going to be that good, but they're hanging in there. Our bullpen is a little shaky right now because of our big closer. He's not in there. He hadn't pitched yet this year, and we missed him. There's a number of ball games this year in the 9th inning where we got beat. You had Izzy out there pitching. You got a pretty good chance of saving the ball game.
Well, I like the makeup of this ball club. The thing about it, Red, is they've got guys that Tony brings off the bench, and you don't lose anything. If you give a starter a day off, you don't lose anything with a guy that's coming out to play. Some of the guys that are on the bench over here could play every day for another ball club.
Well, that's true, and Tony tries to play everybody, and gets everybody in the game. The guys that's on the bench, he'll get them out there to play a few ball games in a row. So it keeps them sharp for pinch hitting and things such as they're supposed to do.
Did he ever come to you for a little advice or historical perspective on managing?
No, not really. Tony and I, we talk. We stand out there during batting practice and talk about a few things once in a while. But no, Tony's a great manager. He's done. You look at his records, he's just been doing a great job.
Red Shandy's our guest, a former player, coach, and a manager for the St. Louis Cardinals, and a member of the Cardinal and the Baseball Hall of Fame, and he's got his name and his number retired. Number 2 among the 11 numbers that have been retired here in Cardinal history. Tomko stays alive.
This is the only place, Red, and this goes back to the family atmosphere that we were talking about earlier, but this is the only place, only ballpark that I know of, instead of having just names up there, they've got nicknames and first names, and the thing about it is the fans know exactly who those people are.
That's right. Got Dizzy up there, of course, and they know who Dizzy Dean was, of course, and everybody else, Lou Brock and Bob. So and Stan the Man, of course. It's St. Louis has been great that way.
Now Traxel having some trouble here with Tomko as he's worked the count full with 2 on and 2 out. A big parent and child game here today with some weekday afternoon baseball at Busch Stadium, where rain or shine, day or night, hot or cold, you're going to get a big crowd here to watch their beloved Cardinals.
Great place to watch a ball game, but also a great place to play. I was talking with Scott Rowland after he signed his contract. He was like a kid in a candy store. I mean, he was so happy. This is where he's always wanted to be. This type of atmosphere, to be able to play with this kind of crowd every single day, and right man in the right place.
Well, you know, Scott is one of these guys that goes out there. He's focused. He's out there every day, hustles everything out. He feels good. He'll try everything at bat. And this is what the fans like. And your fans here in St. Louis, they recognize other ball players as well. They give them a hand.
Mo Vaughn got a nice round of applause when he went into the upper deck last night.
All right.
Slash to right. Cedeno won't get it. And it's by him to the corner. And 2 runs are going to score as the pitcher, Brett Tomko, gives the Cardinals the lead.
Red, you've been working with these pitchers, because every one of these Cardinal pitchers are stroking it every single time they come to the plate.
No, I tell you, I was going to say something about Tomko being a real good hitter, a tough hitter, you know, up there, but I didn't want to jinx him, and he did get a base hit.
Well, he fouled off a lot of pitches, and that's not a bad pitch right there, especially to a pitcher sinker down in the zone, trying to just make him make contact. He does a great job with that.
And if you're a pitcher, can move the ball around with just any kind of way and get your
Just
big
make
hit.
contact.
Yeah, you got a chance, and it'll keep you in that ball game a lot longer.
Now here's an amazing stat that the guys in the truck dug up, that the Cardinal pitchers have a higher batting average than 18 major league teams. Matt Morris has hit well. Woody Williams is a very good hitter. Tomko is now 3 for 11. Drives in a couple of runs today, and the Cardinals have a 2-1 lead as Fernando Vina comes up. An 8-pitch at bat, and Tomko eventually lined one into right field, got to the corner, and got a double out of it.
Every pitcher would love to pitch a shutout and hit a home run and win 1-0.
You don't see that too much anymore.
I'm telling you. Oh, Gibby could swing that bat a little bit, couldn't he?
Oh, yeah, he was a dangerous hitter. He could hit the ball out of the ballpark. There was a lot of guys in them days could hit that ball, the pitchers. Go around the league, all over, they could hit it.
Drysdale was a great hitter, wasn't he?
Yeah, very good.
Don't even ask me, Dan. Don't even get started.
One of the most entertaining days in baseball is in late May, when the hitters, the American League hitters, start taking BP for the first time to get ready for interleague play. It's not a pretty sight.
Yeah.
Vina with a fly ball to right field. And that's all for the Cardinals, but Tomko gets it done driving in a couple. Red, it's been a pleasure. Thank you very much for coming to the booth today.
Thank you.
My pleasure. Thank you.
2-1 St. Louis. We'll be back.
ESPN's Day Game, brought to you by TGI Fridays. Come into Fridays today and enjoy our sizzling chicken and cheese for just $8.99.
One of the most famous symbols of St. Louis, the downtown arch. You've been up there, right? So there's an elevator takes you up to the top?
It's an elevator, but it's not a conventional elevator.
You made it. You're not a fan of heights, but you survived okay.
The windows kind of lean a little bit forward, and I'm not a real big fan of leaning on glass and when you're up that high.
Once was enough.
Yeah.
I'm beginning to doubt whether you even did it.
I did it. It was a long time ago, but I'm not going back up there.
2-1 Cardinals. As we move to the top of the 6th inning, Brett Tomko has now become the story after his 2-run double off Steve Traxel gave the Cardinals the lead in the bottom of the 5th. 3, 4, 5 hitters coming up for the Mets. Cliff Floyd, Mike Piazza, and Mo Vaughn. And again, our thanks to Red Shandies, the Cardinal Hall of Famer, for stopping by the booth and spending some time for us in the bottom of the 5th inning. Big swing and a miss. Floyd out in front. It's 1-1. This is ESPN Day Game from Busch Stadium in St. Louis, along with Jeff Brantley and Gary Miller. I'm Dan Schulman, and we've got the Cardinals trying to complete the sweep on the struggling Mets. Beat them handily the last couple of nights. The first time in Met history, Jeff, that they had allowed 13 runs on back-to-back nights or in consecutive games.
Probably the first time in history they made that many errors, too.
They've made 10 in their last 4 games, and they actually weren't charged with any last night, although they did kick the ball around a little bit. There's the ugliness of the last 4 games. 2 against Arizona, 2 against St. Louis. Floyd with a towering fly ball to right field, but it's going to stay in the park. Marrero on the track, 1 down.
This is a different pitcher in Brett Tomko that you see out there today, and part of this is just the fact that he's maturing as a pitcher. The last 3 pitches that he throws to Floyd are 2 change-ups consecutively, gets him out in front, and the last pitch is a breaking ball that's down in the zone and gets him to pop up. Floyd is traditionally known as a very good fastball hitter, and if you don't change speeds like that, it's going to hit the ball a long way.
You can see it continues a trend for Tomko, who after struggling earlier this season has pitched very well in his last 2 starts.
And I think the reason that he's pitching well is he's using all of his pitches. When he gets in trouble, he's still using his changeup and his breaking ball and being able to throw his breaking ball for a first pitch strike. And that's key for Tomko or any pitcher to their success, is being able to throw not just your fastball for a strike, but being able to throw an off-speed pitch that you can throw when it's 2-1 or 3-1 and keep the hitters off stride.
1-1 to Piazza, and it misses for ball 2. What I didn't know about him, but you and our fine statistician today, Marty Aronoff, were telling me you're a teammate of Tomko's in Cincinnati, and he is an accomplished artist.
Yes, he is. I've seen some charcoal drawings that Brett has done when we were playing in Cincinnati, and tell you what, this guy can draw.
Really?
When you talk about pitchers painting the corner, well, he can paint, period.
An art major at Florida Southern University. 3-1 to Piazza, and it's just off the corner, ball 4. Tomorrow night, it's an NBA playoffs game 6 triple header on ESPN at 7 Eastern. It's the Pistons and Magic. Detroit with a lopsided win to force game 6 last night. Then at 9:30, Allen Iverson of the Sixers trying to put away the Hornets. On ESPN2 at 10:30 Eastern, the Mavericks try to close out the series against Portland. The NBA postseason on ESPN, ESPN2, and ABC. Big Mo Vaughn, the batteries, walked twice today.
Who do you think would win in a race between Piazza, Mo Vaughn, and Cliff Floyd? With Cliff's ankle
With
injured,
Cliff's bad ankle?
like right now.
I would say Cliff first by 10 yards.
Even with a bad ankle?
Yes. And Piazza would still beat Mo. I'm not sure Mo would finish. How long's the race?
50-yard dash. Should we call it a day?
I mean, you can be slow and still be good.
Right. But that's 3 hitters in a row.
Yeah, they're clogging.
Not going to be stealing any bases.
No, and you talked about how the Mets may have to try to do things a little bit differently, put runners in motion, play base to base, that kind of thing, to score runs, because they're not swinging the bats very well. It's tough to do it with this part of the lineup.
Very difficult.
Matheny got a piece of that foul tip, so they give him a little bit of extra time to get back in there.
Well, this Mets club is built for power. With no power, we've got trouble. That's going to leave a mark.
There aren't many unprotected spots on a catcher, but that foul ball found one right there on the left shoulder of Mike Matheny.
Hey, after taking that fastball off the jaw, that was nothing. Nothing. He didn't even wince.
Look out. I'm sure down at first, Piazza, the base runner, feels a little bit of pain on behalf of Matheny as he goes through that. They're all part of a fraternity. Let's go to Gary Miller.
Dan, it's interesting. Mike Piazza is 14 home runs away from catching Carlton Fisk for the all-time record for home runs by a catcher. That's one of the reasons he remains behind the plate. But after he gets that mark, there is some thought about him playing occasionally at first base to give Vaughn a spell, and will really give a lot of mobility to Art Howe with his lineup.
That wild pitch will bounce away from Matheny, Gary, and up to second on the play goes Piazza. And that's something that's been discussed for a couple of years. Should Piazza move to first base? Should Piazza be moved to an American League team? How do they accommodate Piazza and Vaughn on the same team? And Vaughn's contract runs through the end of the next season. There's not a lot of payroll flexibility or team flexibility right now for the New York Mets.
Well, there isn't a lot of flexibility, and we talked earlier about Matheny's flexibility and his ability to block pitches behind the plate. And even a catcher that's as good as Mike Matheny, that ball was about a 50 55-foot breaking ball and it bounces up, you can't tell where the ball is going to go. You can only put yourself in the right position, which he did, but the ball still took a bad hop off the mask and goes towards the third baseline, allowing the runner to advance.
Let's go back to the inside pitch segment we ran earlier with Matheny.
And you can see this pitch bounces in front of the plate, and you can see him cup himself. He's trying to keep the ball in front, trying to keep his body soft, but because of the long hop that he got, hits off the mask and caroms toward the third base side.
Yeah, he did the same thing there that he did when he showed us the inside pitch segment, as he let it come up and bounce off his chest. That one just too high of a bounce. Too high of a pitch for Mo Vaughn to go after there as he strikes out, and Tomko picks up a very big second out here in the 6th inning.
This is a high fastball, but this pitch right here, the reason he can throw this ball by Mo Vaughn in the middle of the plate that's elevated is because he's working both sides of the plate, both an inside fastball and a changeup early in the count, and that's what allows Brett Tomko to climb the ladder and get Mo Vaughn to chase a pitch that's out of the zone.
And just now, that picking up his first strikeout of the game. It's Ty Wigginton who takes outside, ball 1. Wigginton is 0 for 2 today. The Mets a run on 3 hits. The Cardinals 2 runs on 5 hits. There has not been an error yet in this game. Chased it there, and it's 1-1.
And you can see Tomko's poise in this ball game. Even though this is a tight ball game, he's got a 1-run lead. Piazza at second base. Normally in the past, Brett has always tried to do a little bit too much when he had runners on base. But in this inning, you can see how he's continuing to change speeds and using all of his pitches and still challenging the strike zone. And that's what you really have to do. If you want to be successful and be able to win 15, 20 ball games a year, you've got to be able to pitch with the same consistency with runners in scoring position as you do with nobody on base.
Well, and even if none of your individual pitches are overpowering, if you mix up your pitches and keep them guessing, you can still be a very effective pitcher.
The biggest thing is the spread in your velocity of your pitches. You can still get by with a 86-mile-an-hour fastball if you have a 74-mile-an-hour changeup.
Right.
But if you try to throw your changeup 80 miles an hour and your fastball's 86, well, you know what? You're going to do a lot of looking towards the outfield.
2 outs and a runner at second. 2-2 the count on Wigginton. Well, it's not work fast, change speeds, throw strike. I mean, it's work fast and change speeds, throw strikes. Throwing hard is not in there. It's not part of the Bible, right, of pitching?
Well, when you use the term pitcher, that's what the guy's called that stands on the elevated hump out there on the mound. It's not thrower. There's no part of that in the ballgame. Throwing is what you do when you're trying to heave the ball from the outfield towards home plate. And you're hoping that you'll get a hop towards the catcher.
I watched Tomko's last start against Florida, and he was just like this. He was just changing his pitches. He actually left some breaking balls up in the strike zone, and a lot of times the Marlins would pop one up or ground out, slam the bat down, very frustrated. They thought they got some good swings off him, but at the end of the night, he had a complete game victory.
Get away with a lot more mistakes when you change speeds in the zone.
Struck him out. Back-to-back strikeouts. His first 2 strikeouts of the game. And the Mets will leave a man on at second here in the 6th. Still Cardinals 2 and the Mets 1 here in St. Louis. Bottom of the 6th inning, Orlando Palmeiro gets it started for the Cardinals against Steve Traxel, and he takes up and away ball 1. Palmeiro is 0 for 2 today. He's going to be followed by Albert Pujols and then Jim Edmonds. It's a bunt up the third baseline. This could be trouble, and Wigginton won't even throw. A bunt single for Palmeiro.
Don't leave the box too soon. Get the bat head above the handle of the bat. Bunt the top half of the ball. Deaden it just a little bit. Guess what you got? Base hit. Perfect execution.
I like this guy. He's just a good baseball player. As we said earlier, whatever you ask him to do, he's going to get done in a professional manner.
He's a ball player.
Yeah, he is.
See him staying in the box. Doesn't try to leave the box too early. A lot of times if you leave the box early, you'll foul that ball off. You'll foul it over towards the third base dugout. He stays right in there, watches the ball come all the way to the bat head, gets the ball down in the grass. Doesn't try to make it too perfect. Wigginton playing back. All you got to do is get it down.
Pujols 1 for 2 today, and as a first baseman, he's made 1 throw, made it well, and it seemed uneventful. He hasn't seemed bothered by it at all.
Not yet.
Not yet. You're pretty concerned about the way this might go, huh? Runner is going. And it's fouled off by Pujols.
The whole key, Dan, is if you do have a ligament problem or ligament damage, there's no tomorrow. It's over.
Yeah.
You're on the shelf, and you're on the shelf for 12 to 14 months. There is no option of hitting off the bench at that point.
Well, again, they had lost 5 in a row with him out of the lineup, which is one of the main reasons, if not the main reason, that Tony La Russa threw caution to the wind and put him back in the lineup Friday night in Florida.
And I think part of that too is Albert. Albert wants to play. He doesn't want to sit on the bench. But that also goes back to his competitive nature and telling him, well, don't throw the ball even if the guy's going to score. He's going to do it anyway. He wants to win. He wants to play. Like we said about Palmeiro, he's a ball player.
Well, going by Tony La Russa's game plan, could this be his final at bat of the game with the Cardinals leading, even though it's only a 1-run game?
No chance. He's
not taking him out.
No way.
But if he hits a home run here, makes it 4-1. He's out of the game.
Maybe.
You just know, not only game by game, but inning by inning, Tony La Russa is sitting there in the dugout saying, what should I do now? What should I do with Albert Pujols now? And we talked about the throw that he made, and made a nice play to his right. Good range by Pujols, who plays so many different positions. And at this point, his momentum, and probably more than anything, his instincts just said, throw the ball to second.
You dive that way, your heart's beating 100 miles an hour. You look up, the guy's heading towards second base. That's the play you make. I don't think that you can take that away from him. And you can talk about it all you want from the dugout. And even in left field, if Renteria doesn't run out when a ball's hit to left field and he's got to charge it, he's going to throw the ball to the next base.
Traxel out in front, 0-2. Palmeiro at first, nobody out here in the 6th inning. And he shoots a base hit into right field. Palmeiro will stop at second.
Of course, the way he's swinging the bat, how do you not put him in the lineup? Ligament or no ligament.
And Traxel running into a little adversity here in the last couple of innings. Pujols is now 2 for 3.
Traxel gave up 2 hits in the first 4 and the 3rd innings. Now he's given up 5 hits and 2 runs in his last 7 batters.
And a real chance here for the Cardinals to open things up, as it looks like the bullpen's going to get started for the Mets out in left center field. It's David Weathers walking around.
The last thing that Art Howe wants to do is let this ball game get away from him. Anytime you have Piazza in the lineup and you've got a guy like Floyd and Tony Clark off the bench, keep the game at least manageable. You've got an opportunity for a long ball late.
Jim Edmonds. Now, these Cardinals are such an explosive offensive club, though, with the likes of Pujols and Edmonds and Rolen and Renteria. When they're all healthy, there is no tougher lineup in the National League.
They can put some cricket numbers up on the board in a hurry.
They got 7 in the 8th inning on Tuesday night. They got 5 in the 1st inning last night. Led 7-0 after 2. Roller foul.
There's not a whole lot of places in this lineup where you can take a deep breath. 1 through 9, and Tomko's got the 2 RBIs today, so you can't even take a breath when the pitcher comes to the plate.
And Mike Matheny, who's the number 8 hitter, is hitting over 300 right now. I mean, you look at them, and Vigna's not hitting as well as he can. Their closer hasn't pitched yet, Isringhausen.
Just got J.D. Drew back.
Yeah, he hasn't really done much. And Pujols was out for 5 games. Yet they're playing well. They've gotten back over 500, a game over 500 right now. Just a game back of the Cubs for top spot in the Central. So it's not like the West where everybody's worried San Francisco is just going to run away with the thing. I mean, I think if you're a Cardinal fan, you've got to be pretty pleased. You assume you're going to get Isringhausen back. Today's May 1st, which is the first day that Chuck Finley could re-sign with this team as a free agent for them last year, not offered arbitration. They admit they're talking. It's just money, whether or not they can get a deal. They've got an accomplished major league pitcher in Chris Carpenter, recovering from shoulder surgery, working out down at the minor league complex down in Florida, as Edmonds gets hit by a pitch, and that'll load him up. The point being, this is a very good team that could get a lot better.
I definitely think so. This club stays healthy. they're going to be fine. It looks like Piazza's down at the play. Looked like the ball ricocheted off of Jim Edmonds and caught Piazza in a place we probably don't want to talk about. That's the part about being a catcher that a lot of times, especially on foul balls or balls that ricochet off of just like that one off of Edmonds' elbow, you have no clue where the ball is going, and you can't react fast enough. And I can assure you that hurt. That hurt.
Well, he's going to stay in the game. And to buy himself a little bit of time as he goes to the mound. The Cardinals have the bases loaded with nobody out here in the 6th inning after a bunt single by Orlando Palmeiro, a base hit to right by Albert Pujols, and then Jim Edmonds getting hit by a pitch.
No outs, bases loaded, and you got to face Scott Rowland. Hang with him.
Is it going to be Traxel who does it, or are they just wasting enough time to get David Weathers ready to come into this game? And here are the standings we were talking about. The Cardinals have moved over 500 and closed within a game of the Cubs, who have that young, exciting, talented starting rotation. Of course, Dusty Baker now at the helm. The Astros, if you look at these 6 teams, I think it's the Astros right now who are probably the surprise, and in a negative sense. They're just not playing some great baseball right now. Lance Berkman's not hitting. Wade Miller was hit hard again last night by Atlanta, and I know you and I both thought very highly, and a lot of people thought very highly of the Astros coming into the season.
And I still do. I think it's just a matter of those guys getting it going. You look at the Angels last year. They started out really slow in April and turned on the heat for the last 5 months of the year. And I think the Astros will still be in the hunt when it comes down to September.
Now Scott rolling up with the bases loaded, nobody out, and a chance to break it open. And he might do just that as he lines it into left center field. 2 runs for sure. Edmonds hits third, and he's going to score. A bases clearing double by Rowland, and it's 5-1 Cardinals.
Somewhere in the back of my mind, I wonder what the Cardinals would have done had Rowland been healthy for the duration of the play.
You're not the only one.
Probably about 30,000 here today that are wondering the same thing. Fastball in the middle of the plate. You want to try to get ahead, but fastball's in the middle of the plate to Scott Rowland. He's not going to miss too many.
Steve Traxel had been so sharp for the first 4 innings, but he gave up 2 in the 5th. That 8-pitch at bat. Brett Tomko got a 2-run double off him, and now Scott Rowland with a 3-run double. And that's going to be all for Traxel here this afternoon. Cardinals 5, Mets 1. Now the Mets on their way to yet another defeat. Back here in St. Louis, where the Cardinals have blown it open, a 3-run double by Scott Rowland makes it 5-1, knocks Steve Traxel out of the game, and brings in veteran right-hander David Weathers, one of the guys who is holding up his end of the bargain for the Mets this year. Double switch for the Mets as Jay Bell comes in to replace Ty Wigington at third base. Weathers facing Edgar Renteria, who's got a base hit to center field and a base hit to right field.
Weathers likes to put guys away with his slider, and that is a strength of Edgar Renteria's, being able to hit that ball that's breaking away from him into right field. We saw him take a ball outside the other way early, and that's what he's going to try to do here.
Bunted sharply up the third baseline, and no play for Jay Bell.
We've had 2 bunts in this inning.
Unbelievable. Palmeiro got it all started with a bunt single. And that's the thing about the Cardinals. You talk about how other teams have to try to adjust the way they play to score runs. The Cardinals can beat you in any number of ways, because they've got power and they've got speed and they can bunt and they don't strike out very much and they hit for a high average. I mean, they're a truly dangerous offensive team. 3rd hit of the game for Renteria, and here comes Eli Marrero, 0 for 2 on fly balls to center field.
Well, that bunt worked out well for Edgar Renteria, but the object when you have a runner at second base is to, especially with no outs, is to get him to third base so that you can get the runner in. That bunt would probably have been better served had it been bunted toward the first baseline, making Mo Vaughn come and field that ball. versus bunting towards third base.
This is ESPN Day Game from St. Louis, along with Jeff Bradley and Gary Miller. I'm Dan Schulman, and the Mets had a 1-0 lead until the bottom of the 5th. Cardinals with 2 in the 5th, 3 here in the 6th to knock Steve Traxel out of the game. The Mets have lost 4 in a row and have been outscored 39-11 in those 4 games. And they were in pretty good shape for about the first 4 innings here today, but eventually the Cardinals just wore them down. Mets are on their way to Milwaukee for a weekend series after this. They're already in the last in the National League East. Marrero with a fly ball into left center. Floyd is there, and he'll make the play for the first out of the inning. Stanley Cup playoffs continue tonight, with the Ottawa Senators led by Marian Hossa and Daniel Alfredsson taking on Jeremy Roenick and the Philadelphia Flyers. It was a Game 3 overtime loss for the Flyers on a goal scored by Hossa and the Senators. Game 4 tonight at 7 Eastern, the Stanley Cup playoffs on ESPN, presented by Nextel.
That fly ball that we just saw that Marrero hit, if Roland is at third base, we get a run scored right there for the Cardinals.
Yep.
But instead, now you've got an opportunity as a pitcher, David Weathers, to get a ground ball and get a double play and get out of this inning without any more damage.
Mike Matheny is the batter. He's flied out and singled and scored. Matheny is working on a much different stance this year than he's had in the past, and he's hitting very well so far with the stance, but boy, he looks like a nervous guy when he's up there.
I think the biggest key for him is just to keep his body moving so that he doesn't get locked down. A lot of times hitters suffer bat speed wise when they don't keep themselves in motion, and this is part of how he's doing it.
Golfs one way up into the air along the third baseline for Jay Bell, and in foul territory he'll make the catch for the second out. Well, now look out, it's a St. Louis Cardinal pitcher coming up to hit. The confusion there for Bell, who's just come into the game thinking that was the third out of the inning. Sheepishly back to his position, and now here's Tomko, who's been the star on the mound and also one of the stars at the plate. Let's check out Bell, though.
Glad he didn't throw it in the stands.
A la Larry Walker and Kevin Mensch, I believe, right?
Give it back.
Tomko with the key at bat of the game. On the 8th pitch that he saw from Traxel last inning, he lined a ball into the right field corner for a 2-run double. The other 3 runs for the Cardinals scoring this inning on a 3-run double by Scott Rowland. These guys must have some pretty good competition in BP with Woody Williams and Matt Morris and the like swinging the bats.
Does not like slider.
So you expect him to get another one?
It's a scouting report on Tomko's hitting. Boy, my slider. All the pitchers have competition when they're taking bat.
Yeah, but I mean some good competition.
So what are you saying?
I mean, these guys can swing the bats. Fastball inside. I guess Mark Pryor would be right up at the top of the list if you're looking at pitchers who can swing the bat these days.
Game we did in New York earlier, watching him take batting practice, he hit the ball out of the stadium.
Yeah.
Over the bullpen.
Tomko's gone and the Cardinals are gone, but they get 3 and lead 5-1 through 6.
ESPN's Day Game, brought to you by New Suave for Men. Great performance, great price, just for guys. And buying a used car? Get a Carfax Vehicle History Report. Ask your dealer or go to Carfax.com.
As the weather continues to clear up, we've got the sun trying to peek through. Got the Redbird in the stands here on the ESPN Day Game. Big crowd. A lot of kids in the house today for this Thursday afternoon game between the Mets and the Cardinals. And enjoying what they're seeing because the hometown Cards have a 5-1 lead going to the 7th inning. Ray Sanchez facing Brett Tomko. First pitch swinging. He hooks one down the left field line. Palmeiro can't get there. He'll take it out of bounds, and Sanchez is aboard with a leadoff double.
They had Palmeiro swung all the way around towards the left center field gap. First pitch breaking ball. Sanchez hits it right off the end of the bat. That's one of those where you just hit it where they're not at. See this breaking ball, even though it's up in the zone, he hits it off the end of the bat. And that goes back to what you were talking about on some of the earlier, the start that Tomko had earlier, was that even though he was leaving some balls in the zone, guys weren't getting real good swings, and that ball wasn't hit hard at all. It just happened to be where Palmeiro was playing towards the left center field gap.
Well, it looked like from the expression on Sanchez's face as soon as he hit the ball that he didn't think a whole lot of it. I thought maybe it would just be a routine out in left field. Bunted sharply but foul up the third baseline by McEwing, who's already way past first base. Boy, he can go. I mean, yeah, he's just going to put his head down and run until somebody grabs him and tells him to stop.
Roadrunner. This is Sanchez again. You can see this breaking ball. He's flustered the fact that he hit it off the end of the bat. Probably hurt a little bit. Got a double.
McEwing trying to get something started with a bunt. Jay Bell is out on deck again with a double switch. Bell's down to the 9 spot. Pitcher's hitting in the 6 spot right now. Quiet in the Cardinal pen. Tomko has been very good today and has pitched 8 innings and 9 innings in his last 2 starts. And the one problem, or one of the problems, one of the few problems the Cardinals have had, is down in the bullpen. As mentioned, they've missed Isringhausen into the 9th inning, and some other guys have had to fill in. And Dave Duncan's staff down there, they just have, some of them haven't pitched as well as they have in the past. Steve Klein had a couple of rough games, but then got some 3 shutout innings in against Florida on Sunday. But I think they're still searching for role. It's not a committee by design. It's a committee out of necessity right now for the St. Louis Cardinals.
And when you have a situation like the Cardinals have right now, where your main closer is down, everybody's got to step up a role. Setup man becomes closer. Middle guy becomes setup man. And a lot of times when you're changing roles like that, guys try to do a little bit too much. It's still 3 outs. Now, I know that the crowd is cheering and your heart's beating really fast, and it's the 9th inning and the game's almost over and there's a lot of anticipation. But to be honest with you, it's no different than the 1st inning. You just have to treat it as such.
But for some, and you're among them, fine, no problem. You can do that. But some people just can't get over that emotional hump, right?
Well, it's a mind game. It's expectation. A lot of guys get out there, and even though they've never thrown the ball over 92 miles an hour, for some reason they tend to think, today I'm going to throw 97. You leave the ball belt high and they make your outfielders run a lot.
Runner at second, nobody out. 2-2 the count on McEwing. Big hop for Pujols, and he'll make the play unassisted as the runner comes down to third.
And that goes back to what I was talking about moving the runner over. The Mets have got to do anything they can to get runners in scoring position right now.
Okay. We got to wait one more minute.
And now Tony La Russa looks like he might get something started down in that bullpen. 1 out of the man at third. 5-1 Cardinals here in the 7th, and the batter is Jay Bell. His first at bat of the game. Veteran infielder now playing wherever he is needed on the infield for the Mets. I am told by a semi-reliable source that one of Jay Bell's children's names is Brantley. Is that true? Is there truth to that?
You must have a pretty good source.
And, and is there a connection between that Brantley and you, Brantley?
Well, I think that we have the same name and we spell it the same. I don't know that he actually named him after me, but
were you a teammate of Jay's at some point?
Well, we've known each other a long time. Done a lot of clinics together.
Yeah.
Played against each other from way back.
You name one of your kids after him?
No.
So this is a one-sided relationship, basically. Are there other Brantleys in bed? I mean, is this, Nolan Ryan? There's like hundreds of kids named Nolan and Ryan right after him. Is this the only Brantley you're aware of?
The only one I know of.
Well, that's a nice tribute to you. Do either of your kids have names relating to baseball? Is there any connection between your kids' names and baseball? Nothing at all, huh?
Nothing at all.
So you had no say in that. Your wife chose your kid's name.
My son's name is actually my wife's maiden name.
Well, we'll lose the bat there.
My wife's last name was Murphy, and that's my son's.
Gotcha.
Trying to reach that all-evasive slider. If you can't reach it, just throw the bat out.
Boy, and Matheny might have gotten winged again. It's been a tough day for the catchers. Infield back. Cardinals will concede a run on a ground ball.
And Bell will do more than that as he lines one down toward the left field corner. Sanchez in to score. Bell headed for second and now puts the brakes on. And he'll have to be contented with a long RBI single that makes it 5-2.
That's part of what you're trying to do at the plate is foul off pitches that are pitcher's pitches and get you something in the middle of the plate that you can get the bat to. And that's what Jay Bell does right there. We saw him foul off that pitch that was the slider away from him that he threw the bat at. Then he gets him a pitch in the middle of the zone and does what he's supposed to. Gets the run in.
So the Mets back within 3 and still something going here in the 7th inning as Roger Cedeno comes up. And on the grass at third is Roland. Cedeno takes it low, ball 1. Activity now in the Cardinal bullpen. Left-hander Steve Klein now starting to throw.
And Tomko's continuing to make pitches. The pitch that Jay hit was just a ball that he left in the middle of the plate, but he's still not panicking, just doing what he's done the whole ball game, locating his fastball and continuing to change speeds, and that's how you keep yourself in the game.
Ground ball sharply past a diving Pujols into right field. Bell fell down on his way to second base. Probably wouldn't have mattered anyways, but now the Mets have runners at first and second with 1 out, and they're going to bring the tying run to the plate. Let's go back to Gary Miller. Gary?
Dan and Jeff, how great is this? A bullpen view with John Franco. John, as you watch this, and they called to the bullpen today, fortunately they got Graham Lloyd and Mike Stanton in the offseason, but when are we going to see John Franco again in a Met uniform?
Well, I'm hoping by the end of the month. My throwing program has been going real well. I got back-to-back days on Friday and Saturday this week. And we hope next week we'll go Tuesday and Wednesday back-to-back days, and then we'll reevaluate everything. And hopefully by the end of next homestand, I'll go out and rehab somewhere.
Guys aren't supposed to still be pitching healthy at your age. What made you decide to go through this grueling rehab and pitch again?
Well, I don't like to be told I can't do things, so I figured why not? I have another year on my contract. Why not try to give it another shot? And if it works out, it'd be great. I needed to get my arm fixed sooner or later, so I might as well do it right now when we have the best doctors available, and to be around the guys and help this organization and team get to the next level and win.
And me standing out here with you has led to a Met rally as the Cardinals are going to have to make a pitching change. Dan?
Gary, thank you very much. Well, it would have meant a lot, you would imagine, to get John Franco back. If he can get healthy again, here comes another lefty, Steve Klein, coming in to take over for Brett Tomko. Well, as much as anything, Steve Klein's become known for how dirty and soiled looking his hat has become over the years. He refuses to clean it up, and now he's got fans emulating that. As Klein, a very effective reliever in recent years for both Montreal and St. Louis. 3 times he has led the National League in appearances, and he comes in here with a 5-2 lead, but the Mets have 2 on with only 1 out as they have knocked Brett Tomko out of the game and a pinch hitter. Stepping in for the Mets, Raul Gonzalez is batting for Timo Perez.
His hat really is bad.
Superstition? I mean, it goes back to the earlier conversation. What's behind it?
I think part of it is just that it's his kind of
it seems to fit his personality.
Well, it fits his personality, but everybody likes to have some type of security blanket, and I think that's part of why he wears his hat the way that he has. Some guys wear their uniform different. He's got a stinky hat.
Gonzalez pulls one into left field. Palmeiro is there, and Gonzalez hits the ball sharply, but he's retired for the 2nd out. Now for Steve Klein and all these Cardinal relievers, with Isringhausen out, it's a bit of a change sometimes pitching in the 9th.
Well, the guys in the 6th, 7th, and 8th just don't get any recognition when they go out and blow the game or save the game. It's just the 9th inning, the big money roll, and that's how guys look at it. You know, they don't care if you blew a save in the 6th or 7th. It's all about the 9th inning. That's when it gets mostly magnified.
Agree?
I agree. That's why they pay you the big bucks. And it's not that you couldn't do it in the 1st inning or the 5th inning or in the 8th inning. The guys that can handle the pressure at the end of the game are the ones that get paid.
Well, Klein making it look pretty easy here in the 7th. Vigna bobbles and recovers, and they still get Floyd. It's a little dicier than the Cardinals intended it to be, but the Mets are gone. They get 1, but strand a couple. As we take another look at that play that ends the inning. 7th inning stretch time at Busch Stadium. 5-2 Cards.
Cliff Floyd, the left fielder for the Mets, made the final out of the last half inning, and he was waiting on the field, as all baseball players do, for somebody from the dugout to bring his glove out to him, and the Mets can't even get that right. So he stood out there for a couple of minutes, and he had to run all the way back into the dugout and get him himself. What's going on here?
It's not good. That's not good.
Raul Gonzalez stays in the game in center field. Fernando Vina leading off the bottom of the 7th. Tricky pop-up, going to drop in fair, and Vina's got a base hit.
You got to run out to the outfield, run back in, get your glove, run back out to the outfield, and then they hit a ball in the Bermuda Triangle that you have to run after. How do you think his Achilles is feeling right now? Not good.
They are worried that he's not going to be healthy at any point this season. And Cliff Floyd, I mean, a big, strong, gifted baseball player, he has been unable to stay healthy for most of his big league career. Otherwise, his numbers would be even bigger. It's always the big question about him. Can you keep him healthy? Orlando Palmeiro, the batter. It was Palmeiro's bunt single as Vina draws a throw. Palmeiro's bunt single that started the bottom of the 6th inning, when the Cardinals would eventually go on to score 3 runs.
When Vina goes to sleep tonight, he'll remember that hit out there as a line drive down the left field line.
David Weathers won't.
Exactly. But when you're hitting close to that Mendoza line at 200 and 0 for 3, sinking fast, those hits.
That's right.
They all look like line drive.
Shows bunt again, and he fouls it off at the plate. Jason Giambi got a Mendoza reference in a newspaper I was reading this morning. He's at, I think, 197 right now. And look how the Yankees are struggling.
But it's only April.
Oh, he'll be there. But there, and that's a, we talked about St. Louis getting better. Giambi's going to start hitting. Now Rivera's back. Jeter may be a couple of weeks away. Contreras threw great in his first minor league start. I mean, the Yankees might get better.
Can't get any better than what they're doing. You can't win every game. They're going to get all those guys back.
I don't think George knows that. They're 21-6.
High expectations.
And Palmeiro's going to get that job done one way or the other as he sacrifices Vina to second. Now the New York Yankees off to an incredible start at 21-6. The Red Sox might be the talk of baseball if they were in any other division. Nothing wrong with 18-9, but they're in second place.
Bullpen by committee.
Yep, you're not a fan.
Is that obvious?
Going to be some good races, though, as you look around. Oakland and Seattle are both 17-10 right now. Time for the lead in the American League West. Kansas City's run into their first rough spot of the season. They were 17-4, but they've lost 3 in a row. They lost a game yesterday in the 9th inning on 3 hit batters and 2 errors.
They're playing the game well. They seem to have a lot of energy when they come to the ballpark, talking about the Royals. But I just don't know that they're going to be able to compete with the likes of the first tier in the division.
Chicago and Minnesota.
Or in competition with the Yankees or the AL West. I just don't know that they're ready to do that yet. I think they've made tremendous improvement and will probably continue to do so. Very young pitching staff, albeit that they've pitched very well.
Inside to Pujols is 2 for 3. Well, in an effort to find out more about them, I believe you're heading off to Kansas City next week, right?
Next week.
Red Sox and Royals.
Some great young arms on that staff. Like to see Jeremy Affeldt figure out a way to keep that blister off his finger, because the kid's got a great arm.
Pujols with a bouncing ball out to McEwing. Pujols retired, 2 down, and to third goes Vina. This copyrighted telecast is presented by authority of the Office of the Commissioner of Baseball. It may not be reproduced or retransmitted in any form, and the accounts and descriptions of this game may not be disseminated without express written consent. MLB.com has the widest selection of items for the team you love. Shop MLB.com, the official site of wearing your heart on your sleeve, cap, pullover, and lots more. MLB.com. Runner at third, 2 down for Jim Edmonds. Now, was that the last at bat of the game for Albert Pujols?
I would have thought his last at bat would have come after that 3-run inning,
but they got so many guys up to the plate that all of a sudden he was due up third again the next inning.
still in there.
Well, we'll find out if Tony La Russa sends somebody else out to play first base for Pujols in the 8th inning, trying to protect that elbow. Edmonds today 0 for 2, and he's been hit by a pitch.
Pujols, Edmonds, Roland. That's a pretty good 3-4-5.
Well, and imagine if J.D. Drew could ever get healthy and find the stroke that you and so many other people think he has. A high fly ball heading toward the corner. Cedeno is going to disappear from view, and it is caught down in the corner by Cedeno, just in fair territory to get Edmonds and end the inning. The Cardinals are gone. They'll take a 3-run lead to the 8th. Nothing like a hand-operated scoreboard. Even with all the modern conveniences, they still do it the old-fashioned way here at Busch Stadium. As the 0 goes up to make it official, the Cardinals with nothing across in the bottom of the 7th. Good job. That'd be a good job, don't you think?
Oh, yeah.
Watch some baseball out there. Piazza leads off with a bouncing ball between third and short, and he's going to be aboard against Steve Klein with an infield hit. The Mets aren't out of this one yet. They're down 3. They threatened to get even more than the one they got last inning. Now they've got the leadoff man aboard here for the 8th inning as we go back to Gary Miller. Gary.
Back with John Franco, and John, we see Armando Benitez warming up here. At least one thing he doesn't have to worry about on the road is being booed. How has it been for you guys in the bullpen to see the reaction the Mets have had, or Mets fans, so to speak, have had when Armando comes in at Shea?
Well, it's been tough. I mean, the fans are tough. They want the best for a team, and when guys don't perform up to their standards, they're going to get booed. But you really can't worry about that. You have to go out there and do your job, and as long as your teammates appreciate what you do and the organization appreciates what you do, you can't worry about what the fans either booing or cheering. They have their opinions, and you just have to just go out there and do your job.
Dan?
All right, Gary, thank you very much. This is like a new broadcast team we put together out here. This is great. Gary Miller and John Franco.
Live from the bullpen.
Well, and John Franco knows of what he speaks, the way that the fans react in New York, which is about as far away from the way the fans react here in St. Louis as you could possibly get. As Mo Vaughn lifts a lazy fly ball into shallow left field, and Mo is retired. In St. Louis, can you ever imagine, even if somebody was struggling terribly?
Yes, I can.
Okay, well, all right. You were hurt. You were hurt your one year, and you didn't have a good year. How did they treat you?
It was tough.
But was it? I mean, was it like what Benitez is going through in New York right now?
It was pretty
really
bad.
They got on you.
It was bad, but the expectation at the end of the ball game is the key. You're expected to come into the ball game and get 3 outs and close the ball game. And when you don't do that, everybody builds up to winning the game. You're winning, and all of a sudden you come in the ball game and blow it. Well, you know what? They're going to boo, and it doesn't matter where you are. That's part of the process. But that's also part of what you have to get over as a closer. They're not booing in the 8th inning. They're going to boo in the 9th.
But did you ever notice here in St. Louis boos when the door would open and you would come in? I mean, because that's what the New York and the Philadelphias kind of get credited with, if you will. I mean, did it ever get like that here in St. Louis for you? No. Here's Tony Clark pinch hitting in the pitcher spot, the big first baseman, formerly of the Tigers and the Red Sox. Had some very good years for the Tigers, 30 or more homers 3 years in a row. He's not playing much because he's a first baseman and Mo Vaughn's a first baseman, and Mo's got the big contract. But when Clark is playing, he is playing well. And there's kind of a growing call for him to get a little bit more playing time.
Hitting from both sides of the plate, and you're right, Dan. When he's had an opportunity to come into the ball game, he has done very well. And I still believe that hitting off of the bench is the toughest job in the game. You don't have the ABs earlier. It's tough sitting over there in the dugout the whole game, and then it just says hop up and pinch hit. And most of the time when you're pinch hitting, you're pinch hitting off of a specialist out of the bullpen.
Base hit up the middle for Clark. He is now 3 for 10 as a pinch hitter so far this season, and once again the Mets are going to bring the tying run to the plate. Tonight, don't forget, it's game 4
of the Stanley Cup playoffs, the series between the Ottawa Senators and the Philadelphia Flyers. The Senators lead 2-1, but they've got to go to Philly to try to widen out that lead tonight. 7 Eastern, 4 Pacific tonight right here on ESPN. I assume Mr. Thorne will be there, which is why he's not here. Ray Sanchez is the batter. First and second, 1 out for the Mets. Down by 3 here in the 8th inning and trying to avoid their 5th consecutive loss. And what I would imagine would be an awfully quiet flight up to Milwaukee after the game. Steve Klein trying to protect this lead for the Cardinals.
You'd like to believe some of the moves that Art Howe made earlier in the ball game. We're trying to keep by changing pitchers, trying to keep the ball game close so that you can get a 3-run home run or get yourself back in the ball game. But in the bottom of the order, I don't know if that's going to happen.
Fair ball off the bag, bounces to Vigna, and they won't have a play. The Mets have loaded them up. And Art Howe's probably saying to himself, it's about time we got a break.
That's a huge break right there. Off the first base bag, ricochets where nobody can make a play. Couldn't do that again in 1,000 years.
Looked like Pujols would have been there, although you know what? Klein didn't get off the mound. So even if Pujols gets the ball, it would have been a base hit. Klein was nowhere to be seen over near first base.
Well, that's a situation as a pitcher where you're kind of caught in no man's land because the ball's going down the first baseline, and your primary place to go at that point is backing up home plate in case there's a throw from the outfield. So that's where he was breaking, and then the ball hits the bag. Well, as he's breaking towards the third baseline to back up a throw from right field, all of a sudden there's a play at first base. It's kind of a catch-22 right there.
Mike Piazza began the inning with an infield hit, and after a flyout by Mo Vaughn, Tony Clark with a pinch hit single, and then Ray Sanchez with a bouncing ball off the bag for a base hit, and the bases are loaded with 1 out. 5-2 Cardinals. Hermanson ready in the pen if needed. Joe McEwing is the batter. Now keep in mind that Roberto Alomar did not start the game today for the New York Mets. McEwing started in his place at second base. Alomar is only hitting .240, and as a right-handed batter is just 2 for 24 on the season. So McEwing will stay to face the left-hander Klein. Vance Wilson and Toyoshi Shinjo also on that Met bench still today as the pitch is taken outside, and we go back to Gary Miller.
Dan, I talked to Robbie Alomar before the game and Art Howe, and you're right, he's awful against lefties, but Glendon Rush is their next opponent. He's hitting over 500 against him. He was 091 against Tomko, so he becomes the final Met to miss a game. He just needed a break. He's not hitting well right now.
And that's one of the major surprises, I think, with all of the veterans who have underachieved in a Met uniform. Alomar is the one guy. I mean, 2 years ago he had such an extraordinary season, and then he comes to New York and his career numbers just take a beating. His numbers plummet, and it really seemed to affect him, Jeff, both offensively and defensively. He was, by his standards, a pretty ordinary player last year. McEwing with a fly ball deep left field. Palmeiro back, and it is off the top of the wall. It'll stay in the park. 1 run is home, and a second run will score on a double by McEwing that brings the Mets within 1, but was inches away from giving them the lead.
Klein gives McEwing a fastball up in the zone. Bases loaded. You've got to be able to get the ball down, sink the ball, something. This ball is up in the zone. McEwing is thinking nothing but see how far I can hit it with a pitch like that. Lucky that ball didn't go out.
The Mets are still down 1, but second and third, 1 out. And Klein is going to be out of this game. McEwing thought for a moment maybe that it was gone. Tony La Russa is going to take out Steve Klein and bring in Dustin Hermanson as the Mets threaten to take the lead here in the 8th inning in St. Louis. Scoreboard shows us 2, and it's yellow because the inning is still in progress. The Mets have scored twice to get within a run, and they are still threatening here in the top of the 8th inning. Steve Klein gave up 4 hits this inning, and his mounting frustration grows even further. He's been hit hard in 3 of his last 4 appearances,
And Tony La Russa has been forced to go to his pen again. Right-hander Dustin Hermanson, in his second stint with the Cardinals. He was with Boston last year, but missed most of the season with a groin injury. He'll come in with runners at second and third, only one out. And now that there's a right-handed pitcher in the game, Art Howe does go to Roberto Alomar as he brings him in to pinch hit for Jay Bell. Look at those numbers. Look at the struggle that Alomar has had, hitting just .240 on the season. This is a guy you could just mark it down. He'd be over 300 each and every year. Didn't do it last year. Fly ball, left center field. Palmeiro setting up. Sanchez the tag. Throw comes to third. Sac fly for Alomar. The Mets have tied the game.
Well, with less than 2 outs there, that's all you're trying to do. Get the ball. Worst case scenario, get the ball in the air, but get it deep enough to get the run home.
Alomar's first pinch hitting situation of the year is successful, as the Mets score 3 times here in the 8th inning. And we told you earlier that the one concern for Tony La Russa has been the way his bullpen has been going. With Isringhausen out, Mike Crudell trying to come back from an injury. Left-hander Lance Painter, who had been pitching well, fractured his pelvis, and he's at least a month away. And so the St. Louis bullpen has kind of been the weak spot on this team so far.
Painter had that fracture in the ball game that we did out in Colorado earlier when the Cardinals were in town. He's pitching in the ball game. Looked like somebody shot him from the upper deck.
At first it was listed as a hamstring injury, and that's what he thought it was, but he said it was black and blue, and it just kept getting blacker and bluer and bigger and more painful, and eventually they figured out that he fractured his pelvis. Armando Benitez continues to throw in the Met bullpen. 2-0 the count on Roger Cedeno. The go-ahead run at second base. It's fouled off. 2-1.
2 out hits, tough to come by, especially in the Mets uniform these days.
You got to give them some credit, though, for
they battled back today.
They could have rolled over, and they were down 5-1 just an inning ago.
And any time that your ball club is in a slump, even if it's a 3 or 4 game slump, you've got to continue to battle and stay mentally tough and believe that the tide will turn.
2-2 on Roger Cedeno. He's got a couple of hits already today. So there will be no win today for Brett Tomko, who certainly pitched well enough to earn one, giving up just 2 earned runs in 6 1/3. There's the big damage done in the 8th inning by the Mets off Steve Klein to tie the game at 5. Straight foul again.
Well, I think this bullpen situation for the Cardinals has got to be a major concern for La Russa. You can't use it so much that you rush Isringhausen back, but at the same time you still got to have some type of production from those guys in the bullpen. Somebody's got to get them out.
2 balls, 2 strikes. The count on Cedeno. McEwing the leadoff second. And Avina with another play. Cedeno gone. Inning over. But the Mets get 3, and they have tied it. Well, the Mets have tied it, scored 3 runs in the top of the 8th inning off left-hander Steve Klein, and now out of the bullpen in the 8th in a tie game is Armando Benitez, the much maligned closer for the New York Mets. Or has there been a changing of the roles here, Jeff, as he comes out? And Benitez's last appearance, it was in game 2 of the doubleheader Sunday against Arizona. He gave up 3 earned runs in an inning. He's got an ERA over 7, as you can see. He's blown 4 saves already, and has Art Howe making a change here today in the way he uses him.
I think the biggest thing that Art Howe is trying to do is get Benitez back on track. He's still using him in a crucial situation, tie ball game in the 8th inning, but he has the luxury of having a Mike Stanton in the bullpen who has closing experience. He's done it in the past. He's pitched in New York. Maybe he's going to use him in that closing role for a while.
Rollins foul pop will find the camera well over by first base. Scott Rowland, Edgar Renteria, Eli Marrero coming up this inning as we check in again with Gary Miller.
Yeah, we're with the fourth member of our broadcast team here, John Franco. John, it's odd to see Armando in a tie game. What do you think the thinking is here by Art?
Well, you know, it's a tie game on the road. We've been struggling a little bit. Armando has a pitch in a couple of days, so why not get him some work, and hopefully something good will come out of it.
Scott Rowland's up. How would you pitch him if you had Armando's stuff?
Very careful. You just get, hopefully it doesn't get under it too good.
Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Oh, it's caught out at the wall.
Had it all the way.
Hey, Gary, tell John he's pretty good, but if he wants to draw an
Looks
ESPN
like a pitch
paycheck.
Jack Brantley used to throw.
Oh, getting on you now.
Was he not careful enough there?
Not careful enough. That's just to get everybody's blood flowing on that one. So
Let's have a guy as tall as Cliff Floyd in left field.
yes, that's right. That's right. That's for sure.
So Rowland retired on the deep fly ball to left center field. And here's Edgar Renteria. And he rips one into left field. That'll be a base hit at least. Floyd really laboring to get over toward the line and get that ball on that bad ankle, and it's an easy double for Renteria. Boy, does he look hobbled out there, and now he reaches down, and he's in some pain. This is not a healthy baseball player right now.
The problem that Armando's having right now is, even though he's still throwing the ball with tremendous velocity, every pitch that he throws is belt high, and it doesn't matter if you shoot it out of a bazooka. If you throw the ball at the belt, you're going to get hit hard, and you're going to get hit often.
How do you fix that? I mean, can you just, is he aware? Is it a mechanical problem, or?
I don't know that it's as much mechanical as it is just a rut that you're in, but the bottom line is you have to get the ball down for quality strikes and not bounce the ball in the dirt.
Eli Marrero is the batter with a chance to give the Cardinals the lead back again here in the bottom of the 8th inning, after the Mets rallied for 3 to tie it in the top of the 8th. Benitez being used a little bit differently here today, coming in a little bit earlier and in a tie game. And I think we have to assume he was going to come in even if the Mets had not tied the game, because he was up and throwing, Jeff, before the Mets rallied for their 3 runs in the top of the 8th. David Weathers had already pitched his 2 innings.
We heard John Franco talking earlier about Benitez hasn't pitched in a couple of days, and I think that with a guy like Benitez, you've got to be able to get him in the ball game and make sure you get him some work. And when you've had a couple of days off, this is a perfect time to do it.
That double for Renteria, by the way, his 4th hit of the game, the 4th time in his career he's had a 4-hit game. The 2-1 to Marrero. Bouncer foul.
And the last 2 pitches that we've seen Benitez throw have been right on the outside part of the plate, right at the knees. And that to me is showing me that he can make the adjustment. It's just a matter of doing it, and it's a matter of doing it consistently. I mean, that pitch right there, it's not too many people going to lift that ball out of the ballpark.
Tie game in the 8th. Runner at second, 1 down.
The problem, though, Dan, is you don't wait till you got a runner in scoring position until you start making pitches. You do that the first thing when you get out there. You have concentration when you enter the ball game. Don't let the game bring you concentration. You bring concentration to the game.
By the way, defensively, Roberto Alomar stayed in the game at second base. Joe McEwing moved from second to third. The 2-2 upstairs, full count to Marrero. Mike Matheny on deck. So a lot has changed defensively for the Mets. Shinjo is out in center field as well, and Gonzalez has moved to right. Three-2 off the end of the bat into shallow left field. Floyd started back, now coming on, and he'll make the catch. Well, you got a feel for the guy, how much running he's had to do today because he's hurt.
And they didn't even get his glove for it.
2 down to the inning. Don't forget, tomorrow night it's a triple header of Game 6s from the NBA playoffs. 3 teams who fought off elimination last night will try to do the same again tomorrow night. The Magic down 3-2 to the Pistons at 7 Eastern. The Hornets down 3-2 to the Sixers at 9:30 Eastern. And then over on ESPN2, it's Portland down 3-2 to the Dallas Mavericks, 10:30 Eastern tomorrow night. NBA postseason on ESPN, ESPN2, and ABC. So 2 down now with a runner at second, and Mike Matheny is the batter. He's 1 for 3.
And you can see Benitez as the game moves on, hitter by hitter, until he gets behind in the count, he's rushing himself. He's really trying to accelerate towards the plate. Sometimes the best thing that you can do is just quiet yourself down, try to be a little bit more robotic, mechanical, and make pitches. That pitch right there is a breaking ball. He's trying to get a breaking ball behind in the count and get it over the plate. But when you're rushing towards home plate and that front shoulder's flying open, breaking ball's not going to break too good.
Miguel Cairo waiting in the on-deck circle. Should the hitting continue? A very good pinch hitter. The count in Matheny's favor at 2-0. Pulls it. What a play at third by McEwing, who just moved there, and he throws out Matheny to save a run for the Mets. What a spark he's given them at the plate and in the field today. Joe McEwing with an outstanding defensive play down at third base. See, now all haircuts $10. It makes no sense. You should pay $15. I should pay $5. But they're doing some serious business out there. I mean, this is great. Get a haircut, watch a ball game, maybe extra innings. Who knows? Tied at 5 here, going to the 9th. Big comeback by the Mets. And how about Super Joe with that play at third base?
This is where it all started for Joe McEwing. He came to the big leagues in this place, and sometimes when you go back to the place that you started, it adds a little element to your game.
Raul Gonzalez leading off the 9th inning against Dustin Hermanson. Gonzalez called up last week, hit a home run in his first major league at bat of this season, and he did it off a pretty good pitcher, Roy Oswalt. It'll be Gonzalez, Floyd, and Piazza, the 2, 3, and 4 hitters for the Mets here in the 9th inning. Art Howe has used every available bench player with the exception of backup catcher Vance Wilson.
Whatever it takes.
They have come back from a 4-run deficit in the late innings against the Cardinal pen to tie the game. Gonzalez 0 for 1 today as he hits a high fly ball into right field. Marrero, plenty of room. 1 down. Welcome to our ESPN day game from Busch Stadium in St. Louis. Little Thursday afternoon baseball for you, along with Jeff Brantley and Gary Miller. I'm Dan Schulman. It looked like it was going to be all Cardinals for a while as they scored in the middle innings to take a 5-1 lead. Mets have tied it at 5 now, though. Don't forget, baseball tonight is coming up next here on ESPN. Sammy and Barry going head-to-head out at Pac Bell again. Is Ricky going to get back to the major leagues? And one of everybody's favorite features, the monthly web gems. Joe McEwing's got an early start maybe on a May web gem with what he did here today.
That's right. We just saw that one.
Here's Cliff Floyd, who has been hobbled most of the day and has been trying to leg out base hits, run all over the place in the outfield. Made a very good catch out in left center field.
And what Don Baylor told me yesterday during batting practice, Floyd's Achilles tendon is killing him on that. I believe it's on his left leg. And for him to still be out there running around like he is and playing like he is, that's a tribute to him.
Well, he's just had so many injuries. Fans may remember several years ago when he was a young first baseman with the Montreal. As you get a look at the bench coach Don Baylor, Floyd tried to catch a ball and swipe a tag at a runner, and the runner ran through his arm and basically shattered Floyd's wrist. Well, this is a guy, ever since he came up through the Expo system, greatness was projected for him. And so he'll draw the walk and get Piazza to the plate with a man on and only 1 out.
If the Mets are going to win ball games, it's going to be with this 3-4-5 that they've got out there with Floyd, Piazza, and Vaughn. All 3 of these guys have got to have some consistent production, and it can't just be 2 of them. Mo Vaughn has got to be able to hit, and he's got to hit like they expected him to if this club is going to win ball games.
Piazza today 1 for 3. His infield hit last inning got that 3-run rally started.
Now the difference in that pitch and the pitches that Benitez were throwing is almost a foot. That pitch is right on the knees, right on the corner, and that's where you have to pitch against these guys that can hit the ball out of the ballpark. That belt high stuff, forget about it.
Piazza with 3 homers, only 5 RBIs on the season. Chased one in the dirt.
It's very difficult to recognize a pitch that's down in the zone, especially following a good fastball. And you see that breaking ball by Hermanson right there. It started in the same place that the fastball that Randy Marsh, the home plate umpire, called for a strike earlier. Piazza had to take a swing at it because the ball started in the same plane as the fastball the pitch before.
Hermanson way out in front. No balls and 2 strikes. Runner at first, 1 out. A tie game here in the top of the 9th. Hermanson does have some closing experience. This is obviously not that kind of a situation, but until Isringhausen gets back, he is one of the guys Tony La Russa may turn to, and he's got a little bit of closing experience with Montreal, and also when he came up in the Padres system, did some closing at AAA. 1-2, and it's popped up back at first. Pujols in foul territory is there to make the catch. 2 down.
We were talking earlier about taking Pujols out of the ball game when it was 5-1. Well, you don't take him out.
Looks pretty good now, huh?
How the bullpen's going to do.
And that's why we go back to those inning by inning decisions that Tony La Russa is being forced to make, as all managers make, but he's got kind of a special situation here with Pujols' elbow. 2 down, and here's Mo. Vaughn is 0 for 2, and he's walked twice. Way out in front of the changeup. 0-1.
You've got to believe that Mo Vaughn is coming to the plate to put his team ahead. He's looking fastball. That changeup starts on the inside part of the plate and just fades out over. Normally, that's not where an ideal spot for a changeup. But when a guy's guessing heater, doesn't matter.
Gave him another one, but he took it low. 1 ball and 1 strike on Mo Vaughn. Crowd of 35,283 today here at Busch Stadium on a Thursday afternoon. Half of them skipping work and the other half skipping school. 1-1 pitch,
and it started a little damp.
Yeah, it's we got lucky with the weather. It looked pretty unlikely earlier today that they'd get this game in, but all the rain stopped just before the game started.
Like I told you earlier, that's how they do it in St. Louis. Only park in America where they have control over the cloud.
And all the folks in Boston and Chicago and New York are saying, you know, enough with St. Louis. But it's true. 2-2. Would it be your pick as the best baseball city in America, however you choose to define that?
I think from a player's perspective, no doubt about it. Ask Scott Rowland.
Yeah. And there's Matheny with a textbook block, as he was showing us earlier today on the inside pitch.
I wonder if we'll be asking Chuck Finley then.
I got a feeling we will.
I do too.
Yeah. Sooner before later, rather than later. 2-2 on Vaughn. Runner at first, 2 down. And it'll pop up shallow left center field. A trio of Cardinals are there, and it's Jim Edmonds. Who else with the diving catch to end the inning? We got a couple of Web Gem candidates. Joe McEwing for the Mets and Jim Edmonds for the Cardinals here in the late innings today to keep this game tied in St. Louis. Bottom of the 9th, tied at 5 here on the ESPN day game from St. Louis, Missouri. Dan Shulman, Jeff Brantley, Gary Miller with you. Armando Benitez back for his 2nd inning of work for the Mets. Miguel Cairo will come up as a pinch hitter in the pitcher spot for the Cardinals.
Single, bunt, single, ball game. What do you think?
Cairo singles, Vigna bunts him over, Palmeiro drives him in. So it doesn't end well for Armando Benitez, is your prediction. He got a little bit lucky in the 8th inning. That was a deep fly ball that Rowland hit. It was the Mets who came back from a 4-run deficit with 1 in the 7th and 3 in the 8th to get it here.
We talked about when we started this ball game about the shoddy defense that the Mets have been playing. They've actually played pretty well today. Yeah, no errors, and Cliff Floyd has made some great plays despite a bum leg.
last few days. I mean, not only errors, but guys running into each other, tripping over each other. I mean, funny if it's happening to somebody else, as the Mets would say. But in the doubleheader on Sunday against Arizona, when they committed 8 errors, they got 1 from every position with the exception of third base. So they spread it around. It became contagious. Routine fly ball to center field for Shinjo. And Cairo's retired, 1 down.
That's not a single.
Baseball Tonight coming up next year on ESPN. A look at the matchup between the Cubs and the Giants. Sammy and Barry. Ricky Henderson is not willing to say goodbye to professional baseball just yet, and a look back at all the greatest defensive plays for the month of April. Fernando Vina 1 for 4, and they are underway. Mr. Bonds hit a couple in last night's game, one that found the cove. Chopper by Vina, charged by McEwing, 2 down.
McEwing was in just in case Vina decided to lay one down. He hit it awful softly, but because McEwing was playing in, made it an easy play.
So Vina now 1 for 5, and with 2 outs, it'll be Orlando Palmeiro. He's 1 for 3 today. Had a bunt single that ignited a rally in the 6th inning, and then had a sacrifice in the 7th inning.
He's got a home run. Got a chance.
Got 1 this year. He does not have many in his career. Cal Eldred will be the next pitcher for the Cardinals unless they win it right here.
Trying to hit it out.
He's got 4 career home runs.
So him and the other Palmeiro have what, 501?
They're just over 500. That's right. He's got 4 career home runs in over 1,500 at bats. But Benitez is providing all the power here. Grounded to first. Vaughn's got it. Cards go quietly, and we go to extra innings here in St. Louis. Upcoming here in St. Louis, tied at 5 between the Mets and the Cardinals. Don't tuck her out just yet, youngster. A lot of kids showed up for a day game here today, and they're getting a little bit of extra baseball. Cal Eldred. Just about everybody assumed his baseball career was over. Repeated elbow problems, but he had Tommy John surgery, as so many pitchers seem to do these days. And now, after a year off, more than a year, he is back as a reliever for Dave Duncan and Tony La Russa and the St. Louis Cardinals. And one time a pretty big winner consistently for the Milwaukee Brewers.
Seems to be healthy again. Throwing the ball with some good velocity, even though his numbers are probably not where he would like them to be right now. I'm sure he's happy just to be back out there on the mound and have an opportunity to compete on a daily basis.
There's Tsuyoshi Shinjo to lead off the 10th inning. His first at bat of the game. Came on a double switch an inning ago. Righty against righty as Eldred pumps in a strike. Shinjo back for his second stint with the Mets after playing with the Giants last year. It'll be Shinjo, then Sanchez, and then McEwing, the scheduled hitters here in the 10th inning. Don't forget, baseball tonight immediately following the conclusion of this game. Of course, the Cardinals have had some extra inning experience this year, and then some. Playing a 20-inning game against Florida last Sunday.
20 innings.
20 innings. 2 games plus a couple of extra innings all in one day. Fernando Vina got it started and was 0 for 9 when he came up in the 20th inning and singled in the game winner in a game that took more than 6 hours to play. There's a fly ball pulled down the left field line, and it will drop in foul.
20th inning. That doesn't even sound right.
Now Sunday, remember, the Mets played a doubleheader. And St. Louis played more innings than the Mets played. Better than 6 hours, more than 600 pitches thrown.
20 innings.
You ever played a 20-inning game?
No. They were all 1-inning games for me.
Yeah. We've heard your reputation.
Yeah, right.
Yes, we know what was important to you.
Yeah, right.
Shinjo leading off the top of the 10th, the 1-2 count. And the breaking ball from Eldred, down and away. In one-run games on the season, the Cardinals are 1-7. Their only win was the 20-inning game.
One-run ball games usually are a direct reflection of your bullpen.
Batted back to the mound. The Cardinal bullpen has struggled more often than not this year, but Eldred makes the play here, and Shinjo's retired. Now Ray Sanchez. He's had a good day. He's 3 for 4.
Well, he wasn't hitting anything coming into the ball game.
No, he was hitting 132 at the beginning of the game, and he's all the way up to 167 right now.
Sanchez is a first pitch fastball hitter, likes the ball out over the plate, just trying to slap the ball right back up the middle. Not a very good breaking ball hitter, but if you leave it over the plate, he's probably going to make some contact.
Rolling in even with the bag at third base. Fly ball left center field. Trouble. This is going to find the gap and go to the wall. Sanchez with his 4th hit of the game, and this is his 2nd double.
Four hits will do a 130 average some good.
He's got a 4. Renteria's got a 4. Putting some good swings on the ball. And now Joe McEwing, who's already been a star in this game, has a chance to do even more damage for the New York Mets. 2-run double was a huge hit back in the 8th inning, and then he made an equally big defensive play in the bottom of the 8th, robbing Mike Matheny of what would have been and should have been a base hit and an RBI. Runner at second, 1 out. And the amazing thing about this play is McEwing had just moved to third base that inning. Here's the double, and this one was a couple of inches away from being a grand slam.
Can you practice that, you think?
I think so. Fouled off the mask of Matheny, 1-1.
Earlier we were talking about Renteria when he came to the plate, and he bunted the ball with no outs towards third base, and instead of got himself a base hit, but he didn't advance the runner to third base with no out. That run never did score, and right now that stands to be the difference in this ball game.
Good call. Eldred, the 4th pitcher of the game for the Cardinals. Hit him block again.
And immediately after he bunted, the next batter hit the ball into the outfield, which would have been deep enough to score him had he been on third base.
Baseball Tonight coming up next year on ESPN. Another great block by Mike Matheny. Well, he does it the same way every time. He wasn't lying when he showed us what he likes to do on the inside pitch.
He's good.
Swing and a miss. 2-2. Roberto Alomar is on deck. It was Alomar's sacrifice fly as a pinch hitter that tied the game in the 8th inning.
I don't know that I would, as a right-handed pitcher with the game on the line, even with Alomar struggling, that I would want him to be the deciding factor in the ball game.
There's too much history on his side. Well, how many times does he do this? Now that we're paying close attention to it, it seems like he's had to do that about 15 times today.
Every day.
And remember, he's started 24 of the 26 games behind the plate for the Cardinals this year. 3-2. Tony La Russa says, well, the weather hasn't heated up yet, and he's hitting very well. So it's 2 good reasons why he's happy to keep putting Matheny in there, and Matheny's happy to keep playing every day.
And I think from a pitcher's perspective, all of the pitchers would definitely like to have Matheny back there as many times as possible. No cut to Marrero, but Matheny's a pitcher's catcher.
Swung on and drilled into right center field. Edmonds giving chase, and he'll catch up to it. Tagging and advancing to third is Sanchez.
You don't realize how fast Jim Edmonds is until you see a ball hit like that. That ball was hit on a line, and he closed that gap in a hurry. That's not an easy play. The key to making that play was the jump that he got, not his speed or not the way that he approached the baseball, but the jump that he got right off the bat.
So with 2 outs and a man at third, Roberto Alomar is going to come up.
Thinking like I was.
They're not going to pitch to him. Pitcher's spot is on deck, and the last available position player for the Mets, Vance Wilson, is out of the on-deck circle.
I would say that's a sign of respect. Even you're 0 for what? His last 19 or 20 ABs. Not about to put the game in his hands.
They make the percentage move as they keep scratching out names. That's it for position players for the Mets. Cardinals still have a bunch left should they need them. Vance Wilson's going to come up. Last night he doubled, homered, and drove in 3. Runners at first and third, 2 down, and a tie game here in the top of the 10th inning.
I think he should have left Benitez. Let him hit. And all Duncan's telling Cal Eldred right here is give you a little breather. You got 2 outs. Let's get a pitch right here. Make a pitch. Concentrate. Keep the ball down in the zone. This guy's a first pitch fastball hitter.
Stanley Cup playoffs coming up tonight. Game 4 between the Ottawa Senators and Philadelphia Flyers. Marian Hossa and the Senators lead the Flyers 2-1. This game's in Philly tonight, and you can see it at 7 Eastern right here on ESPN. Ray Sanchez at third base. Roberto Alomar at first base. 2 down. Top of the 10th. Pinch hitter Vance Wilson facing Cal Eldred. And one of the great things that baseball can offer that I don't know that other sports can is whoever would have guessed it would be Cal Eldred and Vance Wilson possibly deciding this game. But you know, in basketball, you can put the ball in the hands of the guy you want.
Michael Jordan.
Yeah, in hockey, you can get the guys on the ice that you want. In football, you can hand it off to whoever you want. You don't have that same control here. Fouled back, and it's no balls and 2 strikes on Vance Wilson. And you know, the 25th guy on the roster, whether he's a reliever or a bench player, has a chance to be the star.
So if you're the Red Sox here, you can't put Pedro on the mound in the 10th inning. It's not happening.
And if Nomar is in the dugout and it's not his turn to bat, you can't send him up there. We'll go through this after the game.
Can't change it.
Here's the 0-2. Got it.
Nice. Very nice.
The inning is over as the Mets leave a couple. Albert Pujols will lead off the bottom of the 10th. And Barry Bonds and Mark Pryor will not be exchanging Christmas cards this year as they get it cranked up out in San Francisco. And we're still going strong here in St. Louis into the bottom of the 10th inning as Scott Strickland comes on for the New York Mets, making his 14th appearance of the season, and some very strong numbers on Scott Strickland, but some very tough opposition, Mr. Brantley, and Pujols, Edmonds, and Rowland.
Yeah, you got to run through the gauntlet this inning.
Pujols today 2 for 4, a couple of singles.
Watching Pryor on that pitch to Bonds, there's one thing that you can pretty much rest assured: Pryor's going to pitch inside, and I think that's a big key to his success.
He didn't exactly cower when Barry Bonds was making his way out to the mound.
I don't think he's worried about it.
Swung on and missed. 1-1 on Pujols.
I think Albert's thinking about downtown right there.
With a couple of hits today, he's passed his teammate Edmonds for the leading batting average in the National League. 1 and 2, another big rip. Pujols is now hitting .389. Edmonds came in at .387, but he's 0 for 3.
But you see those 2 pitches by Strickland that Pujols missed. That one he found straight back. Those balls are up in the zone. That's how the game gets over in a hurry. Doesn't matter how hard you throw it to these guys.
Went with a slider, but he missed well outside. 2 balls and 2 strikes. Traxel for 5, gave up 5 runs. David Weathers 2 shutout innings. Armando Benitez 2 shutout innings. And now Strickland here in the 10th. Upstairs again.
Strickland's best pitch is his slider, and what he tries to do, run that fastball in on the right-handed hitters and get them to chase the slider away. But The slider that he threw to Pujols was out of the zone and didn't even get a swing. This ball is up in the zone. That's not a bad pitch right there. You get a pitch up around the shoulders, you've got an opportunity to get a swing and a miss or a pop-up. But that ball that's belt high, those go a long way.
Slider down and away, full count.
And you can see how Strickland's working him. He's trying to change his eye level with fastballs up in the zone and trying to get him to fish for a slider away.
Edmonds on deck, rolling behind him. Ground ball to short. And Pujols is retired, one down. Back to Gary Miller.
Dan Carl was telling us what's going on in that San Francisco Cubs series, the rubber game of that match. Kerry Wood hit Barry Bonds twice on curveballs in game one. Dusty Baker against his old star player. Well, maybe Mark Prior's was a purpose pitch.
I think we'll find out pretty soon, maybe next half inning, Jeff, if the Giants felt it was a purpose pitch and if Felipe Alou tells somebody to respond. Or if somebody takes it upon themselves to respond.
Shouldn't have to be told.
Yeah. There's Jim Edmonds, 0 for 3, and he's been hit by a pitch as he looks at a strike.
If you have to be told, you're not going to do it anyway.
Properly, anyways.
Right. Protect your players. That's why they dive for you out there.
I've got Damian Moss listed as the starter today for San Francisco. 1-1 on Jim Edmonds. They're going for the sweep here, and it looked pretty good until the Mets rallied for 4 late runs to tie the game. 1-2 on Edmonds. This is ESPN day game, Thursday afternoon baseball from Busch Stadium here in St. Louis. A crowd of better than 35,000 in attendance. Saw a pitcher's duel early between Steve Traxel and Brett Tomko. Saw the Cardinals erupt in the middle innings for 5 runs. 2 in the 5th, 3 in the 6th, knocking Traxel out of the game, but then saw the Mets come back against the Cardinal bullpen to tie it up. A fly ball to left field. Floyd back. Floyd to the wall, and it's gone, and the Cardinals win it. Jim Edmonds with a home run in the bottom of the 10th, and St. Louis goes home a winner again as they sweep the New York Mets.
That's driving the ball the other way. That was not a bad pitch. Fastball down in the zone, and he takes it out, puts it into the bullpen of the New York Mets. Jim Edmonds, that's amazing.
Number 6 on the season for Edmonds. And the Cardinals win again. They sweep the New York Mets, run their winning streak to 4, and the Mets drop deeper into the basement in the NL East. They have now lost 5 in a row.
You can see Edmonds. He drives that front shoulder out to that outside part of the plate. Strickland's throwing a hard fastball. All you've got to do is get the fat part of the bat to the ball, and that's what happens right there. Stays right on it.
What a tough day for Cliff Floyd and the Mets in so many respects. A great comeback, but they fall short once again as they fall to 11-17 on the season. The Cardinals go to 14-12 with a 6-5 win in extra innings. Reese Davis, Harold Reynolds, Rob Dibble coming up with a Baseball Tonight next year on ESPN. This has been a presentation of ESPN, the worldwide leader in sports. Now let's go to the studio on the heels of this big extra innings win for the Cardinals. Reese, Harold, and Rob are standing by. Baseball Tonight is coming up right now on ESPN.